Chapter 544. Ding. It was rare for Lu Cheng to receive a message. He picked it up and saw that it was a typhoon warning in Huaqing. In the next few days, a disaster would hit Huaqing. It said that it happens a few times a year along the southeast coast. Lu Cheng thought about it casually and started to think about where to do his morning training in the storm. Should he come to the club earlier? He used his chopsticks to tear a small hole in the crab roe soup dumpling in front of him, letting the soup slowly overflow and fill the entire plate. He then took a picture and sent it to Yen Zhuka with a sneaky smile emoji. After returning from a university town last night, he chatted with his wife as usual, called his mother, chatted with Talker and the others on QQ, played 7 to 8 rounds of games, and read novels. This morning, he woke up on time and trained hard, focusing on the technique of the Fire Sect's 13th move, Scorch. At 8:15 a.m. he met up with Lu Xiaofan, Yu Wang Yuan, and the rest. They took a car to the club and enjoyed all kinds of breakfast in the restaurant. "I want to eat," Yen Zhuka replied with a teary face emoji. "I just finished my morning training. Who's showing off a big meal?" Lu Cheng snickered. It was summer break at Connecticut University. His wife's homework was coming to an end along with the submission of the report. Her parents-in-law had flown to America and planned to bring her on a 2-week trip before returning together. At that time, little Fairy would spend a few days with her grandparents before flying over for a family reunion. Because it was too hot to go out, and because he didn't know much about Huaqing, Lu Cheng suggested that Yen Zhuka buy a house during the winter break. In summer, shopping, eating at old restaurants, and lazing around at home with the air conditioner was the way to go. Furthermore, Longhu Club's salary was paid monthly. It was 800,000 a month. If it wasn't enough, it would be paid in one lump sum at the end of the year. If he wanted to pay the full amount, he would have to save for a while. Just as Lu Cheng buried his head in the soup and stuffed the crust into his mouth and chewed with relish, the girl said, "I get hungry quickly. Can't I?" Okay. When you come to Huaqing, I'll bring you to the club's restaurant. Family members get a discount." Lu Cheng smirked as he typed. Suddenly, he felt someone approaching. He looked up and saw Amin in a round-collar white shirt walking over. She smiled and asked, "Mr. Lu, what do you think of the dishes from Xing province yesterday?" "Not bad. The craftsmanship is very authentic. It's not that kind of local improvement. However, there are a few dishes that I don't quite like. I can make some adjustments. For example, the beef and sour soup." Lu Cheng honestly expressed his thoughts, not intending to be modest. In the next few years, he might have to eat the dishes cooked by that chef. He couldn't endure it for a while. Amin took out a pen and paper from her handbag and took notes seriously. In the end, she smiled and said, "I'll tell the chef directly." She emphasized the word direct to show her sincerity. Lu Cheng smiled and nodded. He remembered the question and changed the topic. "Isn't there a typhoon coming soon? The Sky Capital Gardens field is half open, so there's no shelter from the rain. Where should I go for my morning exercise?" Amin's mind raced as she said, "Sky Capital Gardens Activity Center has a small indoor dojo. Mr. Lu, if you're sure, I can help you inform them in advance and get the key. When the time comes, you can go whenever you want." She was most afraid that Lu Cheng wouldn't have any requests and she wouldn't be able to perform. Now, she couldn't wait to rush over to the Sky Capital Garden property. "Okay, thank you." Lu Cheng heaved a sigh of relief and nodded sincerely. "You're welcome. It's what I should do." Amin was overjoyed, her pretty face glowing. She saw Lu Cheng's gaze turn to the stack of steamers. She tactfully said, "I won't disturb your meal. I'll go settle the matter of the dojo." She took small steps back and slowly turned around. She walked towards the door with a smile. Only when she saw Huang Bin's annoyed expression did she restrain her expression. With her head held high, she walked past him in a dignified manner and left gracefully. She finally understood that in the workplace, it wasn't good to always give in and be a good person. You couldn't abandon your kindness to others, but you had to fight for what you had to fight for. Otherwise, not only would others trample on you, but they would also mock you. Huang Bin had been in the assistant group for many years. Although he wanted to immediately go up to Lu Cheng and exchange a few pleasantries and ask if the driver yesterday was satisfactory, his rich experience told him that under the premise that Amin had just disturbed him, he would only trigger the emotion of annoyance if he went up himself. The loss outweighed the gain. He secretly gritted his teeth and silently left the restaurant. Lu Cheng didn't notice the workplace struggles of others at all. He chatted with his little fairy while enjoying his breakfast. He left the restaurant at 9:10 a.m. and entered the dance stage training room to continue comprehending and practicing his unique skills. He returned to his exclusive resting room at 10:50 a.m. and had a video call with Yan Zheka. He returned to the restaurant at 12:30 a.m. and bumped into Tu Zhang coming out. Dinner gathering? I've already booked a private room in the club. Is it okay to leave at 6 p.m.? Tu Zhang's chiseled face was gentle and smiling. Sure. Lu Cheng agreed readily since he had nothing to do. After that, he, who had just come into contact with powerful martial arts, was so excited that he didn't take an afternoon nap. He spent the entire afternoon in the training room and the training room. Boom! In the void of his fist, scarlet flames rolled in all directions, hiding a golden color. Lu Cheng nodded in satisfaction and kept his stance. He had finally mastered the 13th move of the fire sect, Scorch. Everything is difficult at the beginning. The progress of the remaining 20 over unique skills would be faster than this. Well, excluding the most difficult ones. Swoosh. Warm water dripped down and washed away his fatigue. Lu Cheng changed his clothes and carried his bag. He went to the reserve team's training room in the northwest to meet up with Wang Yuan and the rest. I've already informed the assistant team. There's a car to send you guys there. I'll bring Jianlin and Xiaolu. Tu Zhang waved his hand generously. The 6 Inhumans of the reserve team arrived at a luxurious clubhouse without a word along the way. Just as they pushed open the door to the private room, Lu Cheng, Lu Xiaofei and the rest were stunned because there was already someone sitting inside. It was a bald man who looked like half of an iron tower, a first pin expert with fierce eyebrows, Optimus Prime Long Zhen. Compared to yesterday's meeting in the meeting room, Long Zhen didn't release his aura, but it made people tremble involuntarily. It was like an animal meeting its natural enemy or a weakling meeting a mafia boss. Long Zhen didn't care about the shock of Jia Lu and the rest. He casually cut off the end of his cigar and turned it over the fire. Master Long took good care of me when I was in the reserve team. He often gave me pointers and can be considered as half a master to me. Tu Zhang explained with a smile. When he heard that I was going to hold a welcome dinner for Lu Cheng, he said he wanted to come and join in the fun. There aren't many physical invulnerability experts like him who don't put on airs. Isn't that so? Among all the physical invulnerability experts I've seen, those who put on airs are few and far between. Maybe he doesn't want to put on airs in front of me? Lu Cheng criticized in his heart. He cupped his fists and greeted him calmly. Lu Xiaofei and the rest came to their senses. Keeping their shock, they followed suit and greeted. Greetings, Master Long. Have a seat. Long Zhen's mouth broke into a wide arc. He pointed to the cigar box at the side and said to Lu Cheng, "Want one?" He didn't show any authority, but there was an irresistible aura about him. Who could reject the goodwill of a first-pin expert? It's okay. I don't smoke. Lu Cheng took a light breath and smiled calmly. What are you afraid of? You're no longer at the foundation tempering stage, said Long Zhen as he took a puff of the cigar and slowly exhaled the smoke. Without waiting for Lu Cheng's reply, he chuckled and said, Your ice mirror has reached the level of encountering gods in the void, self-reflection, right? As soon as he said that, Lu Xiaofei and the rest were shocked. Physical invulnerability experts wouldn't be interested in such a level. However, for Inhumans it might not be possible. Among all the fourth pins present, other than Tu Zhang, no one else could achieve such a level. He had only been an Inhuman for a year, right? As expected of the heavenly son of the era. This person must have specially researched my competition videos and put in a lot of effort. A first pin expert like Long Zhen wouldn't be so bored. Who could it be? Lu Cheng looked at Tu Zhang beside him and nodded thoughtfully. Yes. Isn't that settled then? At this level, controlling your body, removing the dirt and cleansing your lungs is a piece of cake. Why would you be afraid of a cigarette? Said Long Zhen with a half-smile. Lu Cheng gave a self-deprecating laugh and replied firmly, I really don't like it. Long Zhen didn't say anything else and turned to ask Wang Yuan and the rest. No one rejected him. In an instant, the room was filled with smoke and looked like a fairyland. Lu Cheng didn't mind. His lungs were so strong that they could cleanse themselves. Not smoking directly was just a matter of attitude and principle. When the cold dishes were served, Tu Zheng smiled and said, I brought a few good wines. You guys take a look and see what you want to drink. After Lu Xiaofei and the rest made their choices, Lu Qing waved his hand and said awkwardly, I don't drink. Don't drink? Which swordsman in ancient times didn't drink? Sneered Long Zhen. Lu Cheng shook his head and said, I'm used to it. There's no need to break it. Besides, compared to alcohol, I prefer other flavors. You're so boring. Long Zhen didn't force him. He chuckled and said, if it were any other job if you don't drink, would you dare to not drink when the leader stares at you? I'm working hard to practice martial arts so that I can have the right to refuse. Lu Cheng imitated what he said back then and smiled calmly. Long Zhen nodded slowly. You're right. The grouper and abalones were served one by one. When the banquet started, Tu Zheng livened up the conversation. Long Zhen also talked about the things that happened in the reserve team from time to time. Both the guests and the host enjoyed themselves. After dinner, Long Zhen didn't stay for long. He said that he was going to other places in the club to relax. Under Tu Zheng's invitation, Lu Cheng and the rest went to the KTV on the third floor to sing for a while. After Lu Xiaofei and Jia Lu played for a while and left, Tu Zheng smiled and went out for a few minutes. Not long after he came back, the door opened. More than 10 girls walked in and stood in a row in front of the big screen. Some were young and beautiful, some were charming, and some were fat and thin. They all had their own flavors. The quality is not bad. You guys can choose first. Tu Zheng leaned back in a relaxed manner and rested his arms on the back of the sofa. I don't need it. Lu Cheng was the first to answer. What are you afraid of? What's wrong with a man acting outside? Tu Zheng chuckled. Seeing that Yu Wangyuan and Sun Jianlin had started to choose, Lu Qing took a deep breath and stood up. I have something to do. I'll leave first. You guys have fun. After he finished, he exchanged glances with Tu Zheng. He didn't panic at all and was calm. Go ahead if you have something to do, Tu Zheng said slowly. Lu Qing nodded and left. After he left, Sun Jianlin drank with his female companion as if nothing had happened. He smiled and said, Leader 2, you're too anxious. We don't know each other well enough. He's still a kid who just left school. That's true. However, I can see that Lu Cheng is a person with a strong will. He's a martial artist who is used to restraining himself. Yu Wangyuan sighed and hugged his 2 female companions. Tu Zheng had a beautiful girl sitting beside him. His eyes were half closed and he didn't say a word. July 3rd, Friday afternoon. Lu Cheng was having his meal when Yu Wangyuan leaned over and smiled. The reserve team has a weekly sparring session in the afternoon. Do you want to join? Lu Cheng, who had mastered another unique skill of the fire sect, was itching to join. Sure. Chapter 545. 2:30 p.m. First floor of the reserve team's training ground in the northwest area. Tu Zheng smiled and said to Lu Cheng, Everyone has been training hard every day and neglecting actual combat. Sparring with each other can help verify what we have learned and find problems. After all, our martial artists are not of a high rank and can only help to simulate the style of sparring. Therefore, the reserve team has always had this tradition. When there are no matches, we will organize a sparring session on Friday afternoons. This was also an effective way to increase the competitive atmosphere in the reserve team. Understood. Our martial arts club used to do similar exercises, Lu Cheng replied casually. However, it wasn't as formal as today. The strength of both parties was also lower. All right then. Let's draw lots. Since we are going to verify what we have learned, there is no need to hide it. I reckon we will be exhausted after one round. Tu Zheng picked up a piece of white paper on the table and scribbled a few numbers. He tore it into 6 pieces and messed them up. The one who gets 1 will be the first to spar. The one who gets 2 will be the second, and the one who gets 3 will be the last. They were in a small office attached to the training ground. There were surveillance cameras that had to be turned on to record the situation of the sparring session. It would be convenient for them to observe the process and analyze problems from the perspective of a bystander. It was much more formal than the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Lu Cheng picked up a random piece and opened it. He couldn't help but smile. 3. You can only be the last. I'm 1. Tu Zheng flashed the piece of paper. Team 2, why are we meeting again? Sun Jianlin bared his teeth. The piece of paper in his hand clearly had the word 1. This is called fate. Tu Zheng laughed and turned to look at Lu Xiaofei and the rest. Who got 3? Me. Yu Wangyuan chuckled. He flipped his palm and revealed the piece of paper. Not bad. An experienced fourth pin mighty one. Lu Qing nodded. He was looking forward to the upcoming sparring session. Stepping into the arena room that was specially built for the training ground, Lu Qing leaned against the bulletproof and heat-proof glass. He glanced at the cameras everywhere and watched as Tu Zheng and Sun Jianlin walked to the center and took up their stances. Yu Wangyuan acted as the temporary referee. Lowering his waist and releasing his aura, Tu Zheng's smile disappeared. Golden red flames seemed to be leaping out of his eyes. Even though they were dozens of meters apart, Lu Cheng could feel the air getting hotter. It was like when he passed by an iron smelting furnace when he was young and happened to see red water flowing out. It was as if the air conditioner in the training ground had malfunctioned and the high temperature from outside seeped in, slightly changing the environment with his aura. As expected of a mighty one close to physical invulnerability, Lu Cheng nodded slightly. At the same time, he was filled with admiration and motivation to catch up. The battle between Tu Zheng and Sun Jianlin lasted for 3 minutes. Tu Zheng, who was obviously holding back, eventually defeated his opponent. He even gave Sun Jianlin some pointers as the team leader. This allowed Lu Cheng, who was watching from the side, to have a new understanding of some of the moves in the dance stage chapter of the Fire Sect. It could be seen that other than the Fire Sect techniques, Tu Zheng had also learned the secret art that combined the Golden Bell Shield and the Undying Flesh Body. However, his core force was the Fire Force, which couldn't fully support the other martial arts, making the effect seem rather weak. Similarly, Sun Jianlin, who had completed the mutation with the Emperor Yen Force, couldn't fully display the wonders of the Dark Sect's flickering light passing shadow. In the second battle, Jia Lu used a weapon. It was a short sword made of alloy that was about the length of a forearm. It had a faint red glow to it. When it was swung, sparks flew and it was exceptionally terrifying. Lu Cheng admired her swordsmanship with great interest and studied how she had integrated the secret arts of the Fire Sect into it. According to his master's description, at the inhuman stage, the power of punches and slashes was similar to the power of weapons. The greatest use of the latter was actually to expand the range of close-range attacks. An inch longer, an inch stronger. Of course, as an external object, there was a gap between weapons and the force that one had cultivated. If one used it directly without polishing it, it would only spoil the weapon. Unless one allowed flames and other substances to attach to the surface of the weapon, it wouldn't be very effective. Therefore, after obtaining a weapon, if a martial artist wanted to use it, they would have to follow the ancient method and constantly nourish it with the force. The modern theory was that through the repeated scouring of the force with low intensity, the molecular structure and composition of the material would gradually change. In the end, it would resemble the skin and muscles of the owner to a certain extent and complete the conduction with less loss. It was precisely because of this that even if one obtained a divine weapon that had been used by a physical invulnerability expert before, under the circumstances of incompatibility, it could only be used as a slightly sharper kitchen knife. Every master who specialized in weapons had a few companions that they had nourished for many years. In order to prevent damage, they had to start all over again. With the breakthrough in the research of bionics materials, custom-made weapons could greatly reduce the time needed to nourish them. This was a huge blow to the ancient style, but it was an inevitable trend in the development of the era. Scarlet light flashed and the sword shadows were like rainbows. Jia Lu's fight was spectacular and she had the upper hand for a while. Lu Xiaofei, on the other hand, wasn't in a hurry. She steadily defended the opening and avoided the attacks. When the opponent's momentum started to weaken, she suddenly exploded and attacked like fire. She was as fierce as the tide and instantly put the opponent in a difficult situation. After putting up a strong resistance a few times, Jia Lu still couldn't turn the situation around. Not only that, she was sinking deeper and deeper. When she was on the verge of defeat, she had no choice but to admit defeat and frustration and reflect on her mistakes in the previous battle. Tu Zheng, Yu Wangyuan, and the rest interjected from time to time, voicing their own opinions and acting as a stepping stone for others. Lu Cheng liked this kind of atmosphere very much. How his teammates played in private was their own business, But when it came to martial arts, they were very serious. They were in the golden age of vitality, drive, experience, mentality, and other factors combined together. After the exchange, Yu Wangyuan, who had been the referee for 2 rounds, stepped into the center. His muscles were firm and his face was round. Lu Cheng, who was full of anticipation, didn't waste any time. He flicked his navy blue martial arts suit and left the edge unhurriedly. Tu Zheng, who had taken a break, would be the referee for this round. Seeing that both parties had gotten into their stances and were ready to go, he waved his right hand and exhaled loudly. Begin! Lu Xiaofan, Jia Lu, and the rest were energized. They paid more attention to the battle than before. After Lu Cheng's battle with Peng Leyun at the end of April, he hadn't fought for more than 2 months. At that time, he already had the strength of a quasi-4th pin. What level was he at now? They didn't doubt that Lu Cheng had the possibility of winning. There wasn't much difference between a quasi-4th pin and a veteran 4th pin. The only difference was training, accumulation, and battle experience. Yu Wangyuan was definitely more powerful, but he wouldn't be so powerful to the extent of crushing his opponent. Both parties would have a 70-30 chance of winning. Improvisation was equally important. Following Tu Zheng's shout, Yu Wangyuan pounced out crazily. He dashed left and right in small steps, like a huge fire burning in a prairie. There wasn't anywhere for him to escape and he could only take it head-on. Lu Cheng had the heart to experience it. Like Peng Leyun, he chose not to dodge. He lowered his waist, gathered his qi and blood, and exploded his Dan force. Wearing a scarlet-red flame glove on his right fist, he swung it heavily and powerfully. Yu Wangyuan lowered his back and suddenly rushed forward. His speed reached the peak in an instant. Chapter 546. Bam! The 2 fists collided. Both of their muscles swelled exaggeratedly, as though they were squeezing every ounce of energy out of their bodies. At the point of contact, air currents formed and turned into waves, spreading wildly in all directions. The loud, dull sound shook the transparent glass dozens of meters away, causing them to vibrate continuously. Clang! 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 Yu Wangyuan's arm went numb, and he swung back. His right fist made a cracking sound as his slightly deformed bones recovered. In terms of absolute strength, the double push was slightly weaker than the simplified fighting formula. Of course, this was under the situation where both parties were of similar realms and levels. His body shook, and he was about to lose his balance. Yu Wangyuan quickly retracted his qi and blood, stabilizing his center of gravity. He then spurted his Dan force again, directing it to his right arm. At this moment, he saw Lu Cheng's body suddenly grow taller. His clothes outlined the shape of all his muscles. His exposed skin, other than his face, had bulging veins that were green and black. His fist carried this violent force, swinging down as though he was smashing a mountain. Clenching his teeth, Yu Wangyuan pulled his arm back, raised his forearm, and quickly swung his fist in reverse to meet his opponent. Just as they were about to reach each other, the fire force exploded gently, creating a turbulent pushing force that allowed the fist to rise into the air like a rocket. With a bang, it broke through the air barrier and hit Lu Cheng's punch. With a crack, Yu Wangyuan's feet sank into the ground. Cracks extended outwards, intersecting with the scars from the 2 previous battles. His body trembled at high speed, his muscles undulating as though he was dispelling the remaining energy. As an experienced mighty one of the 4th pin, he wasn't disheartened by the setback. Without thinking, he did the Dan concentration again, preparing for an outburst. This time, he was going to use another technique of jet spray to turn the tables. When there was another chance, the fire sect was also very good at stimulating outbursts. It was just that he hadn't reached the realm of encountering gods in the void, so he couldn't use secret arts that were harmful to his body continuously like Lu Cheng. It was at this moment that Lu Cheng seemed to have predicted his next move based on his body language and the condition of his muscles. Instead of using the simplified fighting formula, he gathered and released his Dantian Qi and launched a low kick with his right foot. It was fast and vicious. This made Yu Wangyuan, who was still stuck in the ground, feel his heart tighten. He activated the fire force in advance and pulled his arm back fiercely, moving his back and pulling his left leg up. He tightened his muscles and resisted with a bang. His body was obviously swaying. The kick landed. Lu Cheng swung his waist and his left leg stepped forward, as if he was stepping and kicking at the same time. Pa pa pa, 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 kicks. Lu Cheng's 2 legs attacked consecutively, as though a chilly northern wind had been stirred up, forcing Yu Wangyuan to retreat step by step. During this process, Yu Wangyuan only felt that his ankles were starting to stiffen. The coldness slowly seeped into his flesh and blood. The surrounding space was becoming more and more like ice, sticking to his movements, making it harder and harder for him to dodge. A layer of sparkling and translucent light appeared on the ground, as if it was a cold winter square that had been watered. The 17th move of the ice sect, Polar Ground. Thump, thump, thump. Lu Cheng's feet gradually became heavier. The layer of ice thickened and the chill intensified. Yu Wangyuan didn't wait any longer. He made a decision on the spot. A reddish-gold light flashed in his eyes. His right leg, which was dodging, suddenly stomped heavily on the ground. However, this powerful stomp didn't cause any tremors. Instead, it caused the surroundings to become strangely stagnant. Boom! Dozens of centimeters in front of where Yu Wangyuan's feet landed, where Lu Cheng's body was, the sound of air expanding suddenly erupted from the surface of the limestone. A reddish-gold pillar of fire rose into the air. The temperature was extremely high and the flames were intense. The 28th move of the fire sect, Burning God. Before the flames had risen, Lu Cheng had already stopped in his tracks. He bent his back and narrowly avoided the flames of the burning god. The flames flew into the air, sticking close to his body. They turned into a fountain and scattered helplessly. Bam! At this moment, Yu Wangyuan had finished retracting his force. He pulled back his arm and struck Lu Cheng from the side. His fist seemed to be filled with blood, red and ferocious. Just as Lu Cheng straightened his back, moved his arm, and raised his forearm to make a parry, there seemed to be an explosion from within Yu Wangyuan's right fist. His fist changed direction abruptly. Like the head of an agile snake, it strangely turned to one side and swung towards Lu Cheng's shoulder in the opposite direction. In a split second, he changed the direction of his attack. Another application of the unique skill of the fire sect, jet spray. Its change of direction was entirely driven by the force generated from the explosion of the fire force. There were no signs beforehand and it was hard to predict. It was the nemesis of the characteristics of realms such as absolute reaction and encountering gods in the void. When he first imparted the ice mirror to Lu Cheng, Geezer Shur had reminded him not to completely rely on this skill. After so many years, others weren't fools. They had already thought of ways to deceive him. There weren't many, but there were definitely some. If he blindly followed the reflection of the ice mirror, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. In the past 2 years, Lu Cheng had already established the core position of the ice mirror in his fighting style. Although he would occasionally choose to make his own judgment and not blindly trust the ice mirror, he still trusted the ice mirror in most situations. If it wasn't for the fact that he browsed through the dance stage chapter of the fire sect a few days ago and was alarmed by the shocking application of jet spray, he probably wouldn't have remembered his master's advice. At this moment, it was inevitable that he would be flustered and make a mistake in his panic. Luckily, he was already prepared. He pulled his spine and pulled back his shoulders. His entire body slanted, causing Yu Wangyuan's sudden reverse swing to hit the air with a dull thud. Yu Wangyuan's intent was like a raging fire. He expanded outwards, lowered his waist, gathered his chi and blood, and swung it away. Bam! He punched with his left fist towards Lu Cheng's waist. Halfway through, his force exploded. The snake head rose, opened his 5 fingers and fangs, and tore at his opponent's arm. The double push of jet spray was an explosive force within the body. No matter how controlled it would still cause damage. Therefore, compared to the Emperor Yen force, the fire force, which was gentler and more stable, complemented it well. It could help Yu Wangyuan use it many times. Bam! 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 Yu Wangyuan's fists were sometimes straight and sometimes curved, changing and sometimes heavy. This made Lu Cheng tense up. He didn't dare to use his full strength, and he didn't dare to use all of his moves. In an instant, he was at a disadvantage. He dodged, turned, and dodged continuously. Yu Wangyuan took a step forward and changed the direction of his fist, smashing it towards Lu Cheng's chin. Following which, he leaned his body, bent his elbow, and stomped on the ground. Bam bam bam. He closed in and attacked crazily. His moves were continuous, bringing along golden red sparks, creating a strong wind. Lu Cheng is still pretty strong. Jia Lu stroked her short sword, communicating with it emotionally, and sighed softly. If it were her, she would have been in a precarious situation under Yu Wangyuan's attacks and was about to lose. They were both newbies, who had entered the high pin for less than a year. Why was the difference so huge? Yu Wangyuan's continuous attacks aren't that simple. Pay attention to the shape of the remnants of his flames, said Lu Xiaofan enviously as she tilted her head. That was a combination of experience, technique, and proficiency. She couldn't be that experienced and ruthless. Jia Lu focused her gaze. Amidst the banging sounds, the streaks of golden red flames burning in mid-air seemed to have formed the outline of a flood dragon's head. Just waiting for the finishing touch, it would open its mouth and bite. This. Jia Lu suddenly thought of a unique skill, the 27th move of the fire sect, Red Dragon. When it was completed, the reserved fire force would be fully activated, creating an exaggerated effect of combining several attacks into one. At this moment, Lu Cheng, who was already reflected in the ice mirror, suddenly took a deep breath. The muscles on his chest all caved in. Following this force and the wind from his opponent's punch, he swung backwards and moved away in a strange manner. The flames on Yu Wangyuan's fists were burning brightly. He was about to charge forward with his fists to add the finishing touch. However, Lu Cheng's eyes flashed with bloodlust. The sharp tip of his weapon seemed to have been placed on his opponent's neck. To Lu Cheng, the simplified version of the 9 words formula might be more useful than the original version. In an intense battle, a moment's difference could be the difference between victory and defeat. Yu Wangyuan's body stiffened. His thoughts were in a mess. He didn't manage to add the finishing touch in time. The remaining fire force around him was getting weaker and weaker. Lu Cheng gathered his qi and blood and took a step forward. Wearing a scarlet-red glove on his right fist, he struck heavily from the side. After Yu Wangyuan blocked it, his dan exploded again and his left arm rose again. Bam bam bam. He attacked with both fists. Sparks flew from his fists. They were heavy and scorching. Yu Wangyuan could only continuously retreat and block. The rhythm was completely under Lu Cheng's control. As such, even if Yu Wangyuan wanted to break free, he would be interrupted midway. If he wanted to be faster, he would be blocked by Lu Cheng's scorch, heavy punch. His footsteps and fists were one and connected tightly. Lu Cheng was like a robot. He didn't know fatigue and continued to explode. He didn't give his opponent any chance to turn the tables. Bam bam bam. After blocking for an unknown number of times, Yu Wangyuan's teeth were a little loose from the vibrations. Seeing that he had no other choice, he could only use his trump card. His breathing paused. The reddish gold in his eyes condensed and was tainted with some purple. At this moment, the ripples of Lu Cheng's ice mirror reflected the abnormality of his opponent. Without waiting any longer, he threw another scorch, heavy punch. However, he didn't hit Yu Wangyuan's body. Instead, he hit the void between the two of them. The scarlet-red flames condensed on the surface of his fist and almost turned white. It was heavy and heavy. Whoosh! The surrounding air ignited without any wind. The raging flames collapsed towards Emperor Yan and gathered towards Yu Wangyuan. The 116th style of the fire sect, Flying Moth. This was the scorching fist. Wherever the high temperature passed, the air would be in a state of being ignited. When the time was right, the Emperor Yan force would attract the air to complete the contraction and increase the density. Once the density increased, the heat would be even stronger. The air would burn as well, like moths flying towards a candle flame. This move was rather difficult to master. Without control of the surroundings and self, there was no way to connect it. However, to Lu Cheng it was just right. Flames surged in from all directions aggressively. Yu Wangyuan's heart tightened. He gave up on his preparations and raised his hand to block. He felt that even his respiratory tract was unbearably hot. As the flying moth came, Lu Cheng had already closed in. He threw a punch from the bottom up towards the sky. Yu Wangyuan had absolute reaction and hurriedly raised his arm to block. However, he felt that his opponent's fist passed by his side and stopped at his throat. He had made a mistake in his block. Due to the difference in density due to the high temperature, his visual judgment was slightly off. And this slight difference was the difference between victory and defeat. It wasn't that there was a problem with absolute reaction. It was that he didn't extend his arm enough to block. Flying moth into the flame. Illusions before death. As the flames fell, Tu Zheng was stunned for a second. He raised his hand and said, "Lu Cheng wins." Phew. Although Lu Cheng had taken me by surprise and barely won, he had displayed the strength of a true fourth pin. He has already caught up to me. Lu Xiaofan looked at the figure in the arena and was silent. Chapter 547. In the middle of the field, Yu Wangyuan shook his body and shook off the sticky flames. He forced a smile and said, "When I noticed that you were using Emperor Yen Force to propel Scorch Punch instead of alternating with Ice Spirit Force, I should have guessed that you had mastered Flying Moth. Sigh, I was too careless." After all, Lu Cheng had only joined the club for less than a week. I haven't formed the concept of him mastering more fire sect secret arts. That's why I was at a disadvantage. Tu Zheng nodded and said, "He didn't use Ice Force to lower the temperature, slow down the speed, and control it. He kept stacking Scorch Punch. Even if you didn't think of Flying Moth, you should be more careful. There must be something fishy going on." Seeing that they were reviewing and summarizing their gains and losses, Lu Cheng pondered and said, "I had a problem with the way I changed the direction of jet spray. I shouldn't have just dodged and dodged. At that time, it might have been better to counterattack and use offense as defense. Yes, forcing jet spray to change to defense was the best choice. It's very important to grasp the rhythm and take the initiative." Tu Zheng gave a rather pertinent comment. Lu Xiaofan, Sun Jianlin, and Jia Lu joined in and discussed the details of the battle. Lu Cheng seemed to have gained a few new perspectives and gained more experience. Cultivators often say that money, companions, techniques, and land are not a lie. He sighed to himself. No money? How can you practice martial arts if you don't have money? You can't even keep up with the nutrition. At the initial stage of body forging, one had to at least ensure that they ate enough meat every day. Otherwise, sooner or later, they would pee blood and their body would collapse. It was only because of the abundance of resources in the modern society that many people could practice martial arts as they wished. If it were in ancient times, it wouldn't be so easy. They could only wait for their talents to be discovered and nurtured. No training companions? No good opponents? Then it would be inevitable that they would not be able to see Mount Tai. The higher they went, the more they would fall into bottlenecks and eventually come to a standstill. Although Tu Zheng and Yu Wangyuan weren't good friends, they could still feel the effects of the brainstorm of martial artists of the same level from this sparring session. As for the cultivation method, it was definitely indispensable. If one wanted to rely on one's own strength to create something out of nothing, and open up a path that was not inferior to the results of the hard work of generations of predecessors, it was inevitable that it would be wishful thinking. Even a freak like the martial sage would only be able to create something after the Thunder Sect cultivation method had been mastered. Only by standing on the shoulders of giants could one see higher and see further. In modern society, land was inseparable from wealth. What volcano laboratory? What ice sect simulation environment? How could ordinary forces afford it? While thinking, Lu Cheng saw that the sparring session had ended. He returned to the training room of the dance stage and continued to study and practice his unique skills. Yu Wangyuan watched as his figure disappeared into the doorway. He sighed with a hint of envy. Encountering gods in the void. Self-reflection. That's really something. Up until now, I've only been able to use Flying Moth during practice. Once it's in a real battle, I can't use both at the same time. In less than a week, he had mastered Scorch and Flying Moth. This speed, tisk. Sun Jianlin shook his head. Lu Xiaofan said self-deprecatingly, "A few days ago, I was still saying that I would strive to not be caught up by Lu Cheng within a year." The words were still ringing in my ears, and he had already displayed the standard of a genuine fourth pin. Seriously, Sai. This is normal. To the heavenly sons of the era, it's normal for them to advance one pin in a year before reaching physical invulnerability. Compared to Lu Cheng's previous improvement speed, this is already very normal. We can only learn to accept it. Yu Wangyuan sighed and smiled. Luckily, he will reach the threshold of physical invulnerability in the next stage. It won't be that fast anymore. There will definitely be a bottleneck. Tu Zheng had been silent all this while. At this moment, he asked thoughtfully, "During this period, Lu Cheng has been in the training room from morning till night? That's right. Other than resting from 11 a.m. to 12:30 a.m., he's always in the training room. It's not unreasonable for him to master Scorch and Flying Moth in less than a week. Yu Wangyuan said with a sigh. Others were more talented than you, more restrained than you, and worked as hard as you. It was simply despairing. At the very beginning, he had thought that Lu Cheng had neglected his training and relied entirely on his talent. Speaking of this, Yu Wangyuan looked at Tu Zhang and forced a smile. Leader 2, don't worry. You are already close to physical invulnerability and have reached the realm of encountering gods in the void. The next step is to make the great leap and become a true mighty one. At that time, no matter how fast Lu Cheng improves, it will have nothing to do with you and won't affect you. Tu Zhang was silent for a few seconds before laughing out loud. This is actually pretty good. With a strong opponent chasing behind me, I can improve faster. I still have a little more than a year to go before I reach 30. If I can't make the great leap, then my hopes will be slim. Now is the time for me to fight with my back to the wall and burn my boats. Although there were examples of Liang Yifan reaching physical invulnerability in his 30s, there were only a handful of them. 30 was still the threshold of physical invulnerability. One had to make a name for oneself early. Physical invulnerability experts were all in their prime. In the assistant team's office, Sun Tingting, who was wearing a pair of sunglasses and exquisite makeup, swaggered back to her seat. She opened the workgroup chat and tagged the deputy manager of the technical team. Compile the recordings of the reserve team sparring session as soon as possible. They are rushing us. It just ended. Wiping cold sweat expression, replied the deputy manager of the technical team. At this moment, a lady in the foreign affairs team asked excitedly, the sparring session ended? Who did Lu Cheng fight with? What was the result? Although it was a work group, everyone was rather interested in such matters and often gossiped together. He fought with Yu Wangyuan and won. Sun Tingting pouted. Yu Wangyuan, the senior fourth pin who retired from the military? Lu Cheng is amazing. And he's not even 22 years old yet. He still has a total of 8 years to reach physical invulnerability. As expected of the heavenly son of the era. Endless potential. Amen and Huang Bin were watching the discussions in the group. They felt excited and pressured at the same time. They couldn't help but look around the office and realize that many of their colleagues were deep in thought. In the end, they looked at each other. It was as though sparks were flying when their gazes collided in mid-air. However, for the next few days, Lu Cheng followed his routine and didn't miss a single meal. He didn't arrange for additional transportation and left them with no place to show their prowess. They could only make use of the opportunity to exchange pleasantries and show concern for Lang Wan to strengthen their impression of him. On Monday afternoon, Lu Cheng didn't go to the training room. Instead, he followed Tu Zhang, Lu Xiaofan, and the rest to the big conference room in the southwest area. The setup here was similar to a classroom, but there was enough space for practice. This was the weekly physical invulnerability class. Coach Lu Yan and martial arts fanatic Wuxia weren't present. Dragon King Chen Qitao, Empress Luo, Ning Zitong, and Optimus Prime Long Zhan were present. They sat in a row at the head of the table. It was Lu Cheng's first time here. He had only practiced the Fire Sex Dance stage chapter for a week. Furthermore, he had the notes of his predecessors for reference. He only had 1 or 2 questions, so he wasn't in a hurry to ask them. He listened quietly at the side. From the interactions between Tu Zhang, Yu Wangyuan, and the rest with the physical invulnerability mighty ones, he was able to understand many things by analogy and broaden his horizons. No wonder Sister Ning said to try not to miss it. This is the benefit of being in a strong position. Seeing that the class was coming to an end, Lu Cheng stopped being modest. He stood up, raised his hand and greeted politely. The 36th move of the fire sect, Devour, is a high-level application of Emperor Yen force. From the notes of our predecessors, the focus is on contraction and weight. When it reaches a certain level, it will naturally produce flashes and flames. However, I still can't find the critical point. Is there a problem with the technique? Hearing this, Chan Qitao, who had been keeping a straight face, stood up slowly. He walked to the center of the field, clenched his fist, and punched forward. Just as he raised his right fist, the surrounding airflow was ignited. Wisps and wisps of airflow were clearly organized, showing the flow of Emperor Yen force in his body. Wisps of flames condensed and contracted on the surface of the Dragon King's fist. They kept compressing and becoming ridiculously heavy. With a boom, a blazing white light exploded, dazzling the eyes. Lu Chang, Yu Wangyuan, and the rest felt as though they were being swallowed by the flames. They could no longer see or feel anything else. If they were to take a direct hit, other than the flash, they would also be hit by the shockwaves and flames. Retracting his fist, the Dragon King looked at Lu Chang and asked in a low voice, "Do you understand now?" "Understood," Lu Chang answered blankly. The previous scene was still fresh in his mind. Wait a minute. This is no different from the description of the martial arts or the notes. What the Dragon King is saying is that you can't find the critical point because you are too weak. Then I should understand now. Lu Cheng thought awkwardly. While he was answering, Chen Qitao had already left the conference room with his hands behind his back, announcing the end of the class. For the next few days, Lu Cheng tried to use his Dan equilibrium to forcefully guide the contraction of Devour and achieved good results. After that, he eagerly began to master the new unique skill. On Friday afternoon, he came to the training ground of the reserve team in an extremely good mood. It was time for sparring again. Moreover, Little Fairy would be returning from America that day. After spending a few days with the elders of both sides, she would fly straight to Huaqing. Lu Cheng casually picked up a paper ball and saw the word 2 written on it in bold strokes. "Who's in the second group?" he asked with a smile. "Me." Tu Zheng chuckled and opened his palm, revealing a piece of paper with the word 2. Her sacrificial explosion and force concentration stage ignited a prairie fire. Every step she took was firm and steady. Every move she made closed in, forcing Yu Wangyuan to bring out his trump card in advance. It was the Purple Sun that he hadn't been able to use in his battle with Lu Cheng last week. The 11th move of the Fire Sect, Purple Sun, a simplified physical invulnerability move, Purple Sun. This was a move that was both offensive and defensive. Its execution speed would not be faster than the internal explosion used by martial artists of the same realm, but it was a close-range defensive move. Even if there were not many openings, it could still be executed in time. The moment Purple Sun was executed, the space 5 centimeters in front of Yu Wangyuan was immediately filled with the golden red flames that spewed out from his mouth and palm, creating a vortex. The golden red flames were quickly dyed purple, trapping Lu Xiaofei's fist. Her double explosion was unable to hit her opponent, only shattering the vortex. The purple flames were like arrows, shooting outwards and messing up the situation. Yu Wangyuan seized the opportunity and regained the initiative. He controlled the rhythm and did not give Lu Xiaofei any chance to turn the tables. Even if she did the same and used Purple Sunday, Lu Cheng watched attentively. He realized that no matter if it was Yu Wangyuan or Lu Xiaofei, once they used Purple Sun, their expressions would inevitably show signs of fatigue. Their bodily functions would also decrease to a certain extent. Therefore, he had a clear understanding of the exhaustion of this simplified physical invulnerability move. After the first battle, the few of them gathered together. With Yu Wangyuan and Lu Xiaofei as the center, they summarized the battle and exchanged their views. After this matter was settled, the other three retreated and leaned against the edge of the glass that was resistant to high temperatures and attacks. Only Lu Cheng and Tu Zheng were left facing off against each other with Sun Jianlin in between. Tu Zheng smiled and glanced at Lu Cheng. He took a step back and measured the distance with his legs. When both parties were standing at their predetermined positions, he lowered his waist and extended his right hand forward. He got into a fighting stance and looked rather carefree. Lu Cheng responded with a smile and got into his stance too. Before the referee could raise his hand, he suddenly saw golden red flames leaping out from his opponent's eyes. He could feel the illusory flames burning fiercely and sweeping towards him. No, they were not purely illusory. They had really heated up the surrounding airflow. As he breathed, his airway was burning and he could vaguely feel it burning. His aura interfered with reality and his mind shone into matter. Lu Cheng's bursting aura could only affect his opponent's spirit and suppress his opponent's mind. It was impossible for him to change the real environment. Even if the degree was very low, it could only be used as a form of harassment. This was a mystical ability that could only be possessed by someone close to physical invulnerability. Impressive. He channeled his ice force and condensed crystals into the inner walls of his nostrils to reduce the temperature of the airflow that entered his body. This was to prevent the airflow from harming his more delicate and weaker respiratory system. To an inhuman, not breathing for a few minutes wasn't a big deal. However, that was under the circumstances where there was no consumption of energy or internal training. In actual combat, one couldn't hold their breath all the time in order to ensure that one's body was in the best condition. Sun Jianlin looked left and right and took 2 steps back. He swung his arm down abruptly and said, "Begin." Tu Zhang took a step forward with his right leg. It was as though the locomotive of a high-speed train was pulling his body forward. With a clang, he was not far away from Lu Cheng. The high temperature and strong wind that he created could almost blow his opponent away and burn his eyes. Invading like fire. Just as he stopped, he had already retracted his qi and blood. His right arm swung out along with the eruption of a volcano. He clenched his fist tightly and the golden red flames intertwined. Lu Cheng didn't do any dodging. Now wasn't the time to practice his body movement. Only by experiencing more would he be able to fit his predetermined plan. Hence, he used force concentration and placed both his feet together. He used one hand to shield his face and the other to pull back diagonally. He swung out violently. The scarlet flames that were close to white stuck to the surface of his fist, as though they were going to burn and tear apart the enemy. Bam! Tu Zheng's fist exerted force in advance and hit the empty space. The golden red flames flowed out and gathered into a ball before collapsing rapidly. Boom! The dazzling white light blinded Lu Cheng's retina. The wind and waves in front of him surged forward. The flames engulfed him like a torrential rain and flood, as though they were going to swallow him whole. The 36th move of the fire sect, Devour. Tu Zhang had used fire force to execute the Devour move that Lu Cheng had asked him about last week. It was as though he was trying to prove something. Lu Cheng had already thought of a countermeasure. He didn't panic. A layer of ice armor instantly formed on his face, limbs and chest. It reflected the scarlet glow and flowed with extraordinary splendor. Bam bam bam. Waves of flames hit different parts of his body like a torrential rain, melting the ice layer and turning it into water. It moistened the ground but quickly evaporated. Without this additional defense, Lu Cheng's skin would have been burned and his body would have suffered injuries. Although he could recover after a period of time through the vigorous exchange of old and new injuries, he would still feel uncomfortable for a while. After mastering the realm of encountering gods in the void, self-reflection, the 2 old scars on his body gradually faded away and looked brand new. Bam! The violent airwaves were neutralized by Lu Cheng's scorching punch. His feet didn't move an inch and his center of gravity didn't waver. In the lake in his heart, the water froze into ice. The clarity of the ice acted as a mirror, reflecting his surroundings and replacing his eyes to grasp the situation. Lu Cheng suddenly realized that things weren't going well. He tilted his body abruptly and his muscles expanded, rubbing against the air barrier at high speed. He raised his left hand again and blocked in front of his face. At this moment, Tu Zheng threw out a punch with his left fist that looked casual but was in fact tightly connected. The surface of his fist was golden red and tinged with purple. It was heavy and heavy. Whoosh! The surrounding airflow suddenly collapsed inwards. The already hot air was ignited in an instant and turned into patches of scarlet red that pounced towards Tu Zheng's fist. Wherever it passed, Lu Cheng blocked it. Previously it was arrows that came from the inside out. Now, it was raindrops that came from the outside in. The 116th move of the fire sect, Flying Moth. Together with the changes in the environment caused by the momentum, this was its true form. It didn't need to be prepared with continuous scorching punches like Lu Cheng. It was swift, ruthless, and dreamy. Bam! As Lu Cheng turned, he stirred up a strong wind that blew away many of the flying moths. He relied on the remnants of his ice armor and his own strength to resist the attack. Taking a step forward, Tu Zheng closed in and punched out with his right fist. It was heavy and ruthless, as though he wanted to use the visual error caused by the density of the airflow to defeat his opponent. However, when Lu Cheng used the ice mirror as the core to make an effective defense, his fire force exploded silently, giving his fist a second push. It strangely changed its position and smashed fiercely into Lu Cheng's shoulder. The use of jet spray was extremely appropriate at this moment. Captain Tu seems to be very serious today. Jia Lu muttered to herself, amused and surprised. Usually, he would hold back when he fought. Swallowing and flying moth were all moves that Lu Cheng had asked about or used before. Does this count as half a lesson? Sun Jianlin casually mentioned. Which martial artist wasn't competitive and had the desire to suppress their opponent? Chapter 549. Scorching heat stacked around him as the flying moths came one after another. Even with the ice mirror in his heart, Lu Cheng felt that everything was in chaos. If it were anyone else, they would have been flustered and wouldn't have the time to think about the errors caused by the high temperature distorting their vision. However, he blocked with his arm accurately as though it was measured with a ruler. He wasn't affected at all. Facing Tu Zheng's crutch, the muscles on his back swelled. His spine was pulled like a dragon or a bowstring, causing his body to tilt to one side. He dodged Tu Zheng's crutch perfectly. At the same time, his unmoving right leg tightened. The moment he stabilized his center of gravity, he kicked out like a steel whip. This was the result of his experience after sparring with Yu Wang Yuan last week. Facing the direction change of jet spray, one couldn't just dodge or dodge blindly. One had to seize the opportunity and use offense as defense. Otherwise, one would definitely lose if one continued to defend. However, Tu Zhang seemed to have expected this. He didn't stop his fist in the air and swung it downwards, causing his body to fall forward. Taking advantage of the momentum, he stepped out with his left leg and used his knee to hit the side of Lu Cheng's whip leg. Without any hesitation, he neutralized his opponent's counterattack. Being close to physical invulnerability, he also had the realm of encountering gods in the void, self-reflection. His left arm shook and his fist shook. Halfway through, he changed direction again, forcing Lu Cheng to retreat. Pa pa pa. Crisp sounds rang out continuously as Tu Zhang continued to attack with jet spray. The distance between him and Lu Cheng was getting smaller and smaller. Once he stepped into the range of close-range combat, the change in direction from the second stage explosion wouldn't be so easy to dodge. During this process, his steps were precise and complemented his attacks perfectly, leaving no gaps. It was as though he was a robot. Lu Cheng had no choice but to retreat in an orderly manner. Everywhere he passed, sand and pebbles flew and strong winds blew. Compared to Captain Tu, your jet spray isn't good enough. Jia Lu tilted her head and said to Yu Chua, who specialized in this unique skill. Yu Wang Yuan's eyes darkened. He mocked himself, our realms are different, so of course there's no comparison. If I could make a breakthrough in encountering gods in the void, I wouldn't be any weaker than Captain Tuesday Sai. It's a pity that the fire sect doesn't have the ice mirror and can only weaken things that aren't very effective. Without a level, you can't even touch the realm of all-seeing God, sighed Lu Xiaofan. All-seeing God was another name for encountering gods in the void. The so-called God also referred to himself. While the three Inhumans were conversing, the corners of their eyes never left the center of the field. They were unwilling to miss any detail. Bang bang bang. Lu Cheng's footprints were left behind as he fought and retreated. Gradually, he was forced to the edge of the arena. Behind him was the transparent glass that separated the arena from the training ground. Pa! Tu Zheng's left fist was like a venomous snake. Suddenly, he lifted his head and brushed past Lu Cheng's arm, which was hammering downwards to block the attack, before shooting towards his throat at lightning speed. Lu Cheng bent his back halfway and leaned back, allowing his opponent's fist to reach the clouds. In this twisted posture, he swung his right arm backward, turning it into a whip and lashed it towards Tu Zheng's lower abdomen. Tu Zheng didn't panic. He shrunk his shoulders and swung his arms slightly to counter Lu Cheng's single whip. At this moment, he suddenly heard an explosion coming from the horizon. It was muffled and unclear. No, it didn't come from the horizon. It came from Lu Cheng's wrist and fist. Bam! Lu Cheng's arm that was swung backward bounced back. His fist seemed to spurt out a tail of flames as it shot towards the sky like a rocket. It avoided Tu Zheng's block and blasted towards the area between his neck and chest. Fire Sec's 15th move, Jet Spray. For the past week, other than studying the swallow move, his focus had been on practicing jet spray. With his control over his body, it wasn't difficult for him to perform a double explosion. It was just that Emperor Yen Force was more violent than Fire Force and caused more damage to the body. If not for Lu Cheng's precise control, he wouldn't have been able to execute it consecutively. However, He also couldn't do it as easily as Tu Zhang and continuously execute it. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. The fist rapidly enlarged in his eyes. Tu Zhang's expression changed slightly. The muscles on his chest caved in and even the sound of his bones cracking could be heard. In an instant, the area above Tu Zhang's chest caved in. His body floated backwards, causing Lu Cheng's fist to hit empty air. Great! Seeing that his opponent had also mastered jet spray, Tu Zhang's eyes flashed with a reddish-gold light as he got more excited. No matter what he thought in private, once he entered a battle, the stronger his opponent was, the more excited he would be. When Lu Cheng straightened his back like a spring, Tu Zhang lowered his center of gravity and gathered his qi and blood. Following the explosion of Dan force, he threw a punch forward. His martial arts suit bulged inch by inch as though there were flood dragons swimming underneath. They gathered at the surface of his fist and condensed into a reddish-gold light that rapidly collapsed inward. Fire Sec's 36th move, Swallow. Seeing this, Lu Cheng straightened his back and followed up with force concentration. Using Dan equilibrium to guide the flood dragons, he threw a punch forward. The reddish-white light turned into a ball of flames and instantly contracted. It was the same swallow, but a different force. The appearance of the white ball of flames was heavy and heavy, pulling Tu Zhang's reddish-gold light. Boom! Light exploded and illuminated the entire arena. More than half of the formed shockwaves surged towards Tu Zhang. Flames shot out continuously like rain and hit the waves one by one. Just like how jet spray was more suitable for fire force, Swallow was a perfect match for Emperor Yen force. It was slightly better than fire force and had a slight counter effect. Using Dan equilibrium as a guide, Lu Cheng had greatly reduced the gap between him and Tu Zhang in terms of level, experience, and proficiency. Using the swallow style in front of Emperor Yen, this is my chance. Lu Cheng's muscles bulged and he pushed his body forward, stirring up a strong wind that accelerated the flow of flames. Tu Zhang raised his left hand and blocked in front of his head. His muscles bulged like a balloon and pushed outwards to offset the shockwaves and deflect the arrows of flames. Bam bam bam. His clothes were torn apart by the reddish-red flames. Scorch marks appeared on his skin one after another. Lu Cheng took the initiative to slow down his pace. While his opponent was defending passively, he visualized Emperor Yen in his mind. His core was the heavy Virokana. This Virokana wrapped around the Virokana crashed into the boundless cold. Mutated version of severe warning. Lu Cheng took half a step forward and punched out from his waist with his left fist. Everywhere it passed, the colors seemed to darken. Tu Zhang's eyelids twitched. His eyes immediately turned reddish gold and were dyed purple. Phew! He raised his palms and opened them in front of him. Faint purple flames gushed out and intertwined with the flames in his mouth, forming a dreamy whirlpool that blocked Lu Cheng's punch. Fire Sec's 11th move, simplified physical invulnerability, Purple Sun. Poof! Lu Cheng's gloomy left fist was like a fire extinguisher. As soon as it hit the purple vortex, it dissipated into thin air. There was no follow-up jet of counterattack. Boom! Gloomy darkness exploded and purple sparks flew everywhere. Tu Zhang's body swayed and retreated more than 10 meters, as though he was trying to catch his breath. Lu Cheng's qi and blood circulated and stimulated his body. Using the simplified attainment formula, he caught up with Tu Zhang and raised his right fist. In just a few seconds, the offensive and defensive positions were switched. Seeing this, Lu Xiaofan and the others were slightly stunned. They had a deeper understanding of Lu Cheng's cruelty. Seeing that Lu Cheng was closing in on him, Tu Zhang's eyes narrowed. His reddish-gold eyes painted a complicated picture. The surrounding airflow increased in temperature. Lu Cheng felt as though he had been thrown into a blast furnace. His body was melting inch by inch. Countless cracks appeared on his ice mirror and it turned into water. This was the combination of a secret mental skill and an environment that changed his aura slightly. This was the Fire Sec's secret skill, the 335th move, Infernal Purgatory. With a thought, he drew the forwarding formula. Lu Cheng's ice mirror quickly stabilized, but his movements were inevitably sluggish. It was this delay that allowed Tu Zhang to leap forward without lifting his leg. He swung his arm and smashed his fist towards his opponent's head. Lu Cheng had just raised his arm and got into a stance when he ignited the fire force. His fist turned diagonally and hit his opponent's shoulder. Jet spray again. Lu Cheng lowered his waist and shoulders and leaned back slightly to avoid the attack. His other hand swung outwards, intending to counterattack. Heavy and heavy. At this moment, Tu Zheng's fist made another dull sound. As though it had received another push, it swung sideways and stopped right beside Lu Cheng's neck. Lu Cheng couldn't dodge in time. Triple push. Tu Zheng had actually completed the second change of direction. This was the highest level of jet spray. He was close to physical invulnerability and had reached the realm of encountering gods in the void. He could control his body precisely and had barely mastered it. He had split the fire force into internal and external parts and separated them. He would first explode outwards before exploding inwards. This was his first time using it today. Lu Cheng wasn't the only one stunned. Even the referee, Sun Jianlin, and the rest were stunned. Impressive! Lu Cheng kept his stance and praised from the bottom of his heart. As expected of a mighty one who was close to physical invulnerability. You're not bad yourself. Tu Zheng, who had won the match, was in a good mood and gave him a thumbs up. Leader 2, you were holding back just now. For the Battle of the Kings? That's not enough. Yu Wang Yuan and the rest gathered around and lamented with complicated expressions. I just mastered it. Tu Zheng replied humbly. All right, let's exchange our views on the match just now. After Sun Jianlin defeated Jia Lu, the sparring session ended. The technical team started to work on the video. At this moment, someone in the Longhu Club workgroup asked curiously, how was the sparring session for the reserve team today? Who did Lu Qing fight with? He fought with Leader Tuesday. Sun Tingting thought for a few seconds and replied with 3 words. What was the result? The girl from the foreign affairs team gossiped. Is there a need to ask? Sun Tingting replied with a smiley face. That's true. The rest chimed in. Chapter 550. The staff of the Longhu Club weren't surprised that Lu Cheng lost to Tu Zheng. On the contrary, they felt that it was only natural. Even if he was the heavenly son of the era, he had only reached the inhuman stage for 11 months. How could he compare to Tu Zheng, who had been close to physical invulnerability for more than a year? It would be weird if he won. How could a 1 in 1,000 years freak appear again in 20 years? Sitting in a small cubicle, Almond stared at the computer screen on her desk. She didn't feel disappointed and thoughts kept flashing through her mind. After joining the club, she specially bought the autobiographies of the Dragon King and other physical invulnerability experts to understand the commonalities of martial artists. She didn't want to offend the target of her service. If that happened, not only would she fail to get promoted, she might even lose her job. From those books, she realized that most of the mighty ones cared about winning and losing. The only difference was the extent. As the heavenly son of the era who had the potential to reach physical invulnerability, Lu Cheng should have a similar mentality. Although it was just an internal practice match, he would most likely feel depressed. It wouldn't be too much, but it would definitely be there. At this time, she could pretend to meet him by chance, praise him a little, express her admiration and envy for his bright future. That would earn her a good impression and recognition. If he had lost a crucial match, she might not dare to go. At that time, martial artists would either be like a powder keg and urgently need to vent their emotions. Otherwise, they would feel so bad that they wanted to be alone and didn't want to be disturbed. At this level it was just right. Not showing. Almond glanced at Huang Bin, who wasn't far away. She saw him staring at the computer intently and typing furiously. He didn't have any other reaction. He's chatting in the group chat. Most guys aren't as meticulous as girls. Almond picked up the cup and walked out of the door calmly. She headed to the washroom, intending to clean the cup without arousing any suspicion. After entering the washroom, she placed the cup at the corner of the sink. She turned and walked to the stairwell. With light steps, she came to the first floor. Outside the reserve team training ground in the northwest, Almond had just arrived when she saw Lu Cheng. She was delighted. Just as she was about to speak, she realized that he had turned into the dance stage training room and closed the door with a bang. I'm 1 step behind. So be it. Almond stomped her feet helplessly. After waiting for a while and seeing that her target wasn't showing any signs of coming out, she could only return to the assistant team office. In the training room, Lu Cheng's phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was a message from Ku. hit the ground. The flight landed at Xiaofan's airport. The corners of his mouth curled up, and the little bit of gloominess he felt earlier vanished into thin air. "Welcome home," he said with a silly smile. After that, he added a hug emoji. Yan Zheka replied, "How was the fight with Tu Zheng just now? Let me give you some guidance." Previously, it was the landing stage of the plane. "I lost to his jet spray and changed direction twice," Lu Cheng described honestly. They talked about this topic for a while until Yan Zheka got off the plane, took her luggage, and went back home with her parents. Then they stopped talking. Lu Cheng's mood had long returned to normal. He once again immersed himself in practicing the various unique skills of the dance stage chapter of the fire sect. When it was time for dinner, he was about to pack up and go to the dining room to fill his stomach when he suddenly received a picture from the girl. It was a picture of her fair and slender palms and the oily grilled eggplant covered with crispy peas and green and red. Lu Cheng couldn't help but swallow his saliva when he saw it. Old Lu barbecues eggplant. "Shouldn't you be going to get rid of your jet lag?" Lu Cheng asked with a confused expression. Yan Zheka replied, blushing expression. "Can I say that I'm too excited to sleep after returning to Xiaofan? Hee, I'll make you envious." After sending this message, she sent over a few pictures. There were close-up shots of the grilled eggplant from various angles, chicken tips, beef, pork ribs, and other skewers. "You're welcome. I'm just a good person." Covering mouth expression, she replied. Looking at the pictures, she's with Sister Jingjing and Song Li." Lu Cheng flipped through the pictures one by one. Suddenly he laughed and replied, "Thinking about the environment of their home, I feel that it's not compatible with our little fairy." Old Lu's barbecue shop wasn't dirty, but similar places were inevitably a little greasy and messy. "Who's going to bring me to a roadside stall to eat dumplings, noodles, steamed dumplings, and etc.? Yan Zheka replied. "You're the one who led me astray. It's you. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. He wasn't in a hurry to go to the dining room. Instead, he leaned against the wall of the training room and typed a reply with both hands. After joking around for a while, Yan Zheka replied with a red heart emoji. "I'm going to eat." Without waiting for Lu Cheng's reply, she added, "I heard from the lady boss that this place is going to be demolished. They have to move." "Move to where?" Lu Cheng asked with concern. "It's not decided yet. Anyway, Song Li added her WeChat. We'll know when we ask." Yan Zheka exhaled and said, "It's a little complicated. Their home has been here for so many years, as if it will never change. But in the end they still have to move. Yeah, everything in my memory is no longer the same as before." Lu Cheng chimed in. In the poem, the peach blossoms are still the same, but the human face is no longer the same. But sometimes, it's not just the human face, but the peach blossoms are also different. All the memories will settle in the mind and can't be traced back. After exclaiming a few words, Lu Cheng changed the topic and asked casually, "Where did Sister Jingjing decide to go in the end?" Xing Jingjing had graduated this year. With her dance stage cultivation and powerful supernatural ability, she had received many invitations. "We were just talking about this. Sister Jingjing feels that the martial arts circle is relatively simpler and doesn't require much social interaction. It's more suitable for her." Yan Zheka said, "She plans to go to the Guanwai League. The salary there isn't high, but there are physical invulnerability and inhuman experts who are good at illusions. She can learn something suitable." That's not bad. Lu Cheng didn't talk about his wife's best friend anymore. He planned to call Director Xing to congratulate him. The Guanwai League is also one of the top forces. While Yan Zheka was enjoying the food, Lu Cheng walked out of the training room and headed to the dining hall. The sky outside was gloomy and shaking. It seemed that there would be a rainstorm. "Mr. Lu!" Amen and Huang Bin, who were waiting at the entrance of the dining hall, shouted at the same time. They didn't know what to say in the presence of each other. Lu Cheng nodded with a smile. When he was about to walk past them, he suddenly thought of something. "Didn't you say that the club reserved tickets for the home match for us?" "Yes." Huang Bin rushed to answer. "Mr. Lu, how many tickets do you want?" Amen thought quickly and asked, "Do you want tickets for the away match?" "Away match?" Lu Cheng pondered and said, "If it's possible, Give me 2 tickets for every match until mid-August, regardless of home or away match. Yan Zhaka came to Huaqing. He couldn't let her stay at home all the time. That would be boring. If it was a home match, he could treat it as a date. If it was an away match, he could leave a day earlier. It could be considered a short holiday. TSK, just thinking about it makes me happy. Amen agreed without hesitation. This made Huang Bin, who was hesitant and unsure if the away match could be done, feel vexed. I was really stupid just now. With Lu Cheng's status and the fact that he was favored, who would take such a small request seriously? If the rules were as such, he would follow the rules. If the rules didn't have such a rule, he would add it. Thank you. Lu Cheng thanked him sincerely. He walked into the dining hall and saw that Tu Zhang and the rest were there too. Everyone's schedule today is very similar. No wonder it's the weekend. After sighing and greeting, Lu Cheng took a table and filled it with many dishes. Halfway through the meal, Zhang Shouyan from the Foreign Affairs team came in hurriedly. After looking around, he pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and said, "Just in time. Since everyone is here, I have something to trouble you with." "What is it?" As the team leader, Tu Zhang was duty-bound to ask. There was a problem in the south previously. All the experts of the security company were scattered there. Now we have a mission, but we can't find an inhuman mighty one to hold the fort. Zhang Shouyan briefly explained the cause and effect. Longhu Club naturally had a security company in its business. However, their focus was different from the others. They were one of the military sock puppets and most of their missions were overseas. What mission? It would be too much of a delay if we were to go overseas. The Battle of the Kings will be held in late August. Tu Zhang got straight to the point. Zhang Shouyan swallowed his saliva and said, "We don't have to go overseas. Just stay in Huaqing. The Samano royal family from Europe is coming from Beijing and will be here for 2 days. They have their own core security team. We only need to be on the lookout at the periphery. Those trivial matters will be taken care of by professionals. Now we just lack 2 inhuman mighty one to hold the fort and prevent any accidents." Speaking till here, he paused and said, "You guys know about the Samano royal family, right?" "Yes, the vampire family," Jia Lu answered with a smile. The Samano royal family practiced the inheritance of the dark sect. Their ancestors could be traced back to BC. There were many physical invulnerability experts in each generation, causing the mutation of the bloodline to still flourish to this day. Superhumans would appear from time to time. They were fast, strong, resilient, and had a high thirst for blood. The vampires in American novels were based on them. In order to maintain this mutation, those with a bright future would marry close relatives. To outsiders, they were known as the purified bloodline. It's good that you know. Other than being on the lookout at the periphery, we also have the intention of keeping an eye on them in case they can't control their impulses and make any mistakes, which could lead to bad consequences. It's better to be safe than sorry. Zhang Shouyan explained. Who's going? We need 2. The remuneration will be distributed in the form of benefits. Isn't this a mission similar to Spider? It's troublesome. Lu Cheng pretended not to hear. Seeing that no one responded, Tu Zhang smiled and said, "As usual, let's draw lots." "Okay." The rest nodded. Tu Zhang found a piece of paper and tore it into 6 pieces. He wrote the word "go" on 2 of the pieces and crumpled them into balls. He placed them in a bowl and got Zhang Shouyan to stir them before bringing them back. Lu Qing reached out and grabbed one of the balls. He unfolded it and saw a word clearly written on it. "Go. This luck." Lu Cheng laughed at himself and showed the results to the rest. "Who else?" asked Zhang Shouyan. "Me." Jia Lu raised her hand helplessly. "P.S. Let me tell you in advance. Tomorrow, there are 2 sessions. One is at noon and the other is before midnight. I have to go to the hospital in the afternoon. My eyes are not feeling well. It's mainly my right eyelid that keeps twitching. It's been a few days." Chapter 551. After Jia Lu raised her hand, Tu Zhang, Yu Wang Yuan and the rest followed suit. All of them were blank. Seeing that Lu Cheng and the rest didn't object strongly, Zhang Shouyan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "It's settled then. Come to the club tomorrow as usual. There will be a car to send you there. The specific arrangements will be explained to you by the people over there." All right. Since he had joined the Longhu Club, Lu Cheng was mentally prepared for such missions. Furthermore, it wasn't a dangerous mission since it only lasted for 2 days during the weekend. After seeing Zhang Shouyan off, he picked up his phone and told Yan Zheka about his bad luck. Yan Zheka quickly sent an emoji of covering her mouth and said, "I'm not laughing." Lu Cheng smiled, covering face expression and sighing expression. "Cuckoo, you've changed. You weren't like this in the past. You only knew how to comfort me. When did you learn my lines?" Yan Zheka sent an emoji of sitting blankly. After chatting for a while, Lu Cheng threw his little gloominess to the back of his mind. While eating, he searched for information on the Samano royal family and had a heated discussion with his wife. The next morning, after his training, he arrived at the club in the familiar SUV. He saw Jia Lu in black loose-fitting clothes. Her hair was tied into a ponytail. Faint traces of makeup surrounded her bright and watery eyes. She held a sheathed dagger in her hand. While looking around, she looked valiant. However, she didn't change her attitude as a bystander. "You're dressed quite professionally." She glanced at Lu Cheng and chuckled. Lu Cheng's clothes were also loose-fitting. However, it wasn't a martial arts suit. He didn't want others to see through his identity. The navy blue color set off his temperament well. "You're not bad yourself," Lu Cheng replied politely. "Sigh, this kind of thing is quite annoying. If I have the time, I'd rather practice my martial arts and practice my moves. Wouldn't that be better?" Jia Lu waved the dagger in her hand. Currently, she was at the stage where her desire to improve was the strongest. She couldn't wait to be disturbed. Although the competitive atmosphere and competitive spirit would always exist, there would also be peaks and valleys. It was impossible for it to be so strong all the time. When a few people got along with each other for a long time, this aspect would fade. Just like the reserve team from before, it would only become active again when a newcomer joined and disturbed the tranquility. Because of this, Jia Lu was stimulated by Lu Cheng. She also noticed that everyone else was working hard. How could she be willing to slow down and waste time? Lu Cheng smiled and said, "Anyway, I've already drawn it. Saying more will only ruin my mood. Let's just treat it as an adjustment and save energy for later." "That's the only way." Before Jia Lu could finish her sentence, she saw a black car drive over and stop in front of her. "Good morning, both of you." A man whose thighs and calves were almost the same size pushed open the door and greeted them with a smile. He also had a ponytail, wore Hawaiian-style shorts, and wore purple-rimmed glasses. He looked more like a director than a security company employee. Of course, if he didn't have a gun, he would look more like, "Hello." Lu Cheng and Jia Lu retracted their expressions and returned the greeting politely. "Sorry to trouble both of you. Let's talk in the car," said the ponytail man as he showed his ID. As inhuman mighty ones, they were bold with their skills. Also, they noticed that the driver was Zhang Shouyan from the External Affairs team, so they sat in the back seat. After closing the car door, the ponytail man went to the front passenger seat. He turned his head and said, "My name is Xue Jian. I used to be a member of the club, but now I'm working in a security company. You don't have to worry too much this time. Everything will be handled by professionals. You just have to follow the arrangements and wait within a certain area. Make sure that if anything happens, there won't be no one and you'll be able to make it in time. There are many people in the day, so it's best if both of you work together. At night, you can take turns." Lu Cheng and Jia Lu nodded at his words. Their expressions became relaxed. After Xue Jian finished his explanation and confirmed a few questions, they took out their phones at the same time and went about their own business. In the next few hours, they went to the airport, to the hotel, and finally to the grand banquet hall. Throughout the entire process, they didn't have to watch the surveillance cameras or be on high alert. It was all other people's business. In other words, before an accident happened, they were just there to fill in the blanks. In the luxurious yet low-key banquet hall, Lu Cheng and Jia Lu stood in a corner, wearing undetectable earphones. They looked like the most ordinary security guards. However, it was just an appearance. The unprofessional Lu Cheng would occasionally look at his phone screen with a smile and type furiously. At other times, his eyes would be half closed, making use of the free time to think about the remaining secret arts of the fire sect in the dance stage chapter and simulate them in his mind. Jia Lu paced back and forth. This was the 39th time she had done this today. Looking to the side, she sighed, half out of curiosity. Aren't you bored? Are you okay? Lu Cheng gave him a puzzled look. You seem to be having a good time? Jia Lu thought for a long time but couldn't think of the phrase, enjoying oneself. That's because I have a wife. You probably need a boyfriend. Lu Cheng ridiculed. Isn't it the same everywhere you play with your phone? Jia Lu was speechless at first. In the end, she said earnestly, in our martial arts school, people who are addicted to their phones will be slapped in the palm. You guys are so pitiful. Lu Cheng didn't notice the insinuation. He smiled and pointed to the front. Then let's enjoy the scenery. I have to say, the members of the Samano royal family are quite good-looking. They were more than just good-looking. They were all handsome men and women with black hair and red eyes. They were more than enough to make movies or TV series. I'm sick of it. I want to get into a stance and practice a set of martial arts now. Jia Lu looked to the front, feeling lonely. Lu Cheng's mouth twitched. He was about to tease her when Xue Jian's voice suddenly came from the earpiece. At your 9 o'clock, there's a little prince acting strangely. He's a powerful superpower user. One of you will follow him. If he wants to go out or do something bad, stop him. Okay. Lu Cheng agreed and turned to look at Jia Lu, hinting with his eyes, aren't you bored? Here comes the trouble. Jia Lu turned her head and pretended not to see or hear. Lustful. Lu Cheng criticized in his heart. He strode towards the direction Xue Jian had described. He saw a 13 or 14-year-old boy moving towards the washroom. He was wearing a tuxedo with a red bow tie. His black hair was spiked back and his red eyes were like gems. He looked meticulous and childlike. That's him. Prince Cinda, follow him. Keep a distance. Xue Jian's confirmation came from Lu Cheng's earpiece. Lu Cheng pressed his ear and slowed down his movements. He followed Prince Cinda into the corridor leading to the washroom. After a few steps, he saw Prince Cinda's ears twitch. He suddenly turned and stood in the shadows outside the washroom. His body quickly darkened as if he had blended into the shadows. But that was only relatively speaking. Prince Cinda's silhouette could still be seen at a glance. He stood there motionless with his shoulders shrunk. It was as if he had turned invisible. Do you think I'm F***king blind? Lu Cheng was confused. He thought for a while and walked over. He smiled and spoke in a foreign language. Hello, this is the women's washroom. The men's washroom is a little in front. Prince Cinda's figure gradually became clearer. He was stunned. You can see me? I'm not blind. For a moment, Lu Cheng was speechless. Prince Cinda blinked his red eyes in confusion and said, They all say that my shadow form ability is very outstanding. It's impossible to see or find me. I get it now. You must be a very, very powerful mighty one, right? I'm more than willing to accept the evaluation. But what happened just now has nothing to do with mighty one. Anyone with normal eyesight can see them. They should go see an ophthalmologist. Lu Cheng forced a smile. Just as you expected. I knew I could meet a mighty one this way. Prince Cinda muttered and revealed a childlike smile. No, he was a child. Sir, can you be my opponent? Let me practice my superpower. No, it's not a battle. I just want to confirm what level my superpower is at. My family, my friends, and my servants are all very polite to me. I always feel that I'm not very sure. Sir, is that okay? Lu Cheng was stunned. He spoke into the mini walkie-talkie on his collar. Incoming. What's the situation? Xue Jian became nervous. Lu Cheng deliberated over his words and replied solemnly, I think I've met a scammer. P.S. This chapter is a little short. Pack up and go out. Go see an ophthalmologist. If there's nothing wrong, the second watch will be at midnight. Chapter 552. What? On the other end of the walkie-talkie, Xue Jian was confused. He almost shouted, Speak human language. Lu Cheng repeated his explanation. The little rascal is acting strangely because he wants to find someone to spar with. Hurry up and find your parents. I'm not in the mood to play with him. Although it's not a bad idea to see the dark sex legacy, this isn't the right place. Understood, Shui Jian replied after a few seconds of silence. He first informed the head of the Samano royal family security team, before waiting for further instructions. Seeing Lu Cheng mumbling something that he couldn't understand, little Prince Cinda's eyes suddenly deepened, turning from blood red to dark red. Circles of ripples spread out from his eyes, like the surface of a calm lake repeating itself over and over again. It made Lu Cheng feel as though he was staring at a pendulum swinging left and right, or the hands of a clock ticking away. His mind became more and more empty. His thoughts scattered, and his eyelids became heavier and heavier, as though he had fallen into a dream. The ancient scroll of darkness, the progenitor of hypnosis. Noticing Lu Cheng's eyes becoming unfocused, Prince Cinda couldn't help but smile. He issued an order in a low voice, "Turn back." Lu Cheng didn't move and continued standing there. "Turn back." Prince Cinda raised his voice, but Lu Cheng remained as steady as a mountain. He didn't move an inch. What's going on? Prince Cinda looked over and saw that Lu Cheng's eyes weren't focused, but there was a sense of superiority in the depths of his eyes. It was as though Lu Cheng was looking down at him with a calm, indifferent, and emotionless attitude. It was like the gaze of the gods recorded in ancient books. All of a sudden, Xinde shuddered, his whole body trembling. "Have you had enough fun?" Lu Cheng teased. "I've had enough." Prince Cinda bit his lip and replied. Suddenly, he stomped on the ground with his black leather shoes and pounced forward. He turned into a blurry shadow and dashed into the depths of the corridor at high speed. However, such a quick movement only produced a slight friction sound, like a fleeting light in a peaceful dream. Bam! The air barrier shattered, and a strong wind blew. A dull thud entered Prince Cinda's ears. His vision blurred as he saw a young man in loose navy blue clothes appear in front of him. The young man extended his right hand and gestured for him to stop. Tap! He stepped on the ground again and changed direction as if he was tap dancing. He tried to go around from the other side. There was another explosion of stellar energy. The same person, the same posture, and the same expression appeared before Xinde's eyes. He changed his body shape several times and even pretended to retreat, but he still couldn't shake off his opponent. Lu Cheng was always fixed in front of him. The strong are extraordinary. Princess Irina, Shui Jian introduced through Lu Cheng's earpiece. Lu Cheng nodded slightly and stepped aside, allowing little Prince Cinda to run past and stand beside the person. Little Prince just walked into the wrong washroom, he described what had happened with a straight face. I didn't. I was just... As a gentleman, Cinda's face flushed red. How could I enter the ladies' washroom? Without waiting for Irina's reply, Lu Cheng pretended to be on the walkie-talkie. He left the place and returned to the banquet hall. Princess Irina didn't speak. She just frowned and sized him up with a strange look. Sister Irina, do you know him? Cinda was raised to be a child, but that didn't mean he was stupid. He keenly sensed his cousin's abnormality. You could say so. Irina retracted her gaze and answered faintly. She muttered to herself, the feeling of starry sky is so familiar. Ever since Lu Cheng was listed as the heavenly son of China, the intelligence agencies of various countries had been collecting information on him. He was a key target of observation. When he left the University Martial Arts Circle and joined the Longhu Club, similar information was presented to the higher-ups of various countries. They viewed him as the successor of the Dragon King. Irina, who had been in touch with the royal family for some time, naturally knew about it. Is he very strong? Little Prince Cinda asked excitedly. Very strong. Irina nodded solemnly. Little Prince Cinda's eyes darted around. He asked curiously, Then is he stronger than you, Sister Irina? For now I'm stronger. Irina boasted a little. She and Lu Cheng were at the same level. As for whether she could defeat him, she would only know after a real battle. Cinder immediately revealed a puzzled expression. But, he can see through my shadow transformation. Sister Irina, you can't... Irina's expression froze. She was momentarily speechless. Should I say that I lied to you just now, or have I always lied to you? Her thoughts raced and she was quick-witted. Irina smiled gracefully. Perhaps his ability is the nemesis of shadow transformation. I see. Little Prince Cinda easily believed his sister's explanation. My idiot little brother. The corners of Irina's mouth twitched, and she took the opportunity to smile. However, her heart was inexplicably filled with complicated feelings. If nothing goes wrong, Cinda will be my husband in the future. But in my heart, he will always be a child. Sigh, destined bloodline, destined marriage. Returning to Jialu's side, Lu Cheng picked up his phone again and shared the incident with Yan Zhaka about his encounter with the naughty kid. So slow? What did that little prince do? Jialu tilted her head and asked curiously. He was playing hide and seek. Lu Cheng replied casually. Jialu almost couldn't believe her ears. In the end, she lamented, children who marry close relatives either have high IQ or are easily handicapped. That prince seems to be retarded. At night, in the hotel where the Samano royal family was staying, Lu Cheng and Jialu were in the surveillance room. One was resting with his eyes closed, while the other was paying close attention to the professionals. Once they noticed something amiss, they would take action immediately. In Irina's presidential suite, she was pacing back and forth in her lace pajamas. She looked very frustrated. This was the side effect of the mutated dark bloodline that provided her with great strength. Members of the Samano royal family would be filled with bloodlust from time to time. It wasn't the thirst for blood, but the urge to tear apart flesh and let the warm blood splatter on them. The younger and stronger they were, the stronger the urge. Bam bam bam. Irina threw punches with both hands, deforming the pillow. She didn't intend to go out hunting, even if it was just for real stray animals. Once discovered, it would severely affect the image of the royal family. After all, she was in a big country. After taking 2 deep breaths, Irina sat by the bed and removed the necklace around her neck. She pulled out the amulet that had fallen into her cleavage and held it in her palm. It was as though there was a starry sky in it. Countless feelings mixed together, but there was a calming feeling within. After 10 minutes, Irina exhaled, calmed down, and released her palm. The amulet was brand new, as though it had just come out of the oven. It was silver white and embedded with a few pure gems. In the middle of it was a complicated seal script from China. Confrontation. Chapter 553. After calming down, Irina lowered her head and looked at the amulet in her palm. She muttered to herself, no wonder the starry sky felt so familiar. So it's because of this. After 10 seconds of silence, she stood up, picked up her phone, and walked to the window. Her black hair draped over her back like silk, complementing her white lace pajamas. Looking at the city that never sleeps in the flowing galaxy, she dialed a number using the satellite hotline. After a series of beeping sounds, a languid male voice sounded. Still awake. Irina took a deep breath and looked into the distance. She said calmly, Gu, I met someone. He's a little similar to the amulet you gave me. They both smell like the starry sky. What? The man on the other end of the phone blurted out. After a few seconds, he asked in a deep voice. Who is it? Lu Cheng, the heavenly son of China. Princess Irina narrowed her blood-red eyes, reflecting the lights of thousands of homes. Got it. The man paused for a moment before replying. Don't provoke him or attract his attention. I'll make arrangements for the rest. Okay, I just wanted to inform you. Irina smiled and asked, is the sun still so bright in John Weilberg? Her beautiful face was expressionless, without a trace of a smile. Yes, I'm sunbathing and about to fall asleep. The man on the other end replied with a laugh. After chatting for a while, they hung up. Irina was still standing by the window. Her pajamas were pure white, her hair was black, and her eyes were blood-red. Her gaze was deep and distant as she looked at the outside world. She muttered to herself, Gu, does your mystery have anything to do with this? The Samano royal family security team was not only responsible for guarding against accidents and ensuring safety, but also keeping an eye on some of the bloodline members and preventing them from venting their anger outside. That was the responsibility of damaging the country's reputation. Therefore, the night passed without any incidents. Lu Cheng and Jia Lu had a rather relaxing time. It was the same the next day. The schedule was tight, with talks, visits, balls, and even banquets. TSK, what did you do yesterday? Did the Samano royal family's princess take a liking to you? She kept looking at us. She kept looking. Jia Lu took a look at the beautiful Irina, took a deep breath, and clicked her tongue. Lu Cheng curled his lips and said, "You like me? She wants to fight with me. She's also an expert of a similar level. She'll definitely be delighted to meet a worthy opponent." He had done his research beforehand and was very clear about Irina's strength. "Then why didn't she look at me?" Jia Lu retorted. As soon as the words crossed her mind, she was immediately annoyed. "Just pretend I didn't ask." The answer was very simple. Lu Cheng was the heavenly son of the era and had a great reputation. She had been promoted in the martial arts school but had never won a prestigious championship. Although her talents and strength were not bad, they were not widely known. For the princess of the Samano royal family, she really didn't know who he was. "Good thing I don't have to answer." Lu Cheng joked with a smile. "My answer is that you are too weak." This would make Jia Lu furious, right? Just as Jia Lu was curious and wanted to get to the bottom of this, Irina slowly walked over with a glass of pale golden champagne. Hey, she's here to challenge you to a duel. Do you accept?" Jia Lu asked with great interest as a bystander. "I'll have to ask Xue Jian." Lu Cheng was not a coward and was eager to give it a try. Irina stopped in front of him with a graceful posture. Her lips curled into a smile. She said in English, "Lu, has anyone ever told you that you smell good?" "What kind of script is this? Miss, did you say the wrong lines?" Lu Cheng was confused. What happened to the agreed duel? After a few seconds, he came back to his senses and shook his head in confusion. "No. Cuckoo often says that I'm smelly." Irina frowned slightly before breaking into a smile. "That's a pity." After that, she turned around and walked back to the center of the banquet. What did she mean? Lu Cheng looked at Jia Lu, perplexed. Jia Lu was also stunned. Her bright eyes were filled with confusion. After a while, she seemed to have come to a realization. She smiled and said, "Do you need me to translate the real meaning?" "Let's hear it." Lu Cheng was perplexed. "In short, your conversation went like this." Jia Lu paused for a moment before teasing, "Dating? No way. Be serious." Lu Cheng did not expect Jia Lu to be such a girl and was almost speechless. This girl usually looked lively but was actually the type that kept people at arm's length. She liked to watch a show but was unwilling to get involved. Who knew she had such a side to her? Jia Lu chuckled and said, "I'm serious. If she wasn't dating, why would she say that you smell good? Shouldn't she at least have a chat and talk about the dishes for dinner?" If you answered, "You're the first one?" Or, "Is that so? What does it feel like? You could have slept with the princess tonight. Although they're going to the airport later, you still have time. Are you regretting it?" This was the first time she had encountered such a situation. She was really interested. "I'm glad that I didn't answer correctly." Lu Cheng wiped the non-existent cold sweat on his forehead. He felt that Jia Lu's words made sense. If he had answered wrongly and gotten Princess Irina to pester him, he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. How could he face his little fairy then? "I'm not considered handsome, and my temperament can only be said to be that of a strong person, the kind that's gentle and reserved. As for my taste, it's even more illusory." Did Irina approach me to collect stamps, or did she have other motives? Could it be that the Samano royal family is really like the vampires in novels where they can do great things by sucking a small amount of my blood? Lu Cheng's thoughts ran wild as his imagination ran wild. After that, there were no more incidents until the Samano royal family arrived at the airport after the farewell banquet and flew out of China. "All right, your mission is over. Sorry to trouble you too." Xue Jian's voice sounded in Lu Cheng and Jia Lu's earphones. Phew, finally free. Jia Lu took off her walkie-talkie and looked at Lu Cheng. "I can't wait until tomorrow so I can go to the club's training ground to practice my martial arts." "Me too." Lu Cheng smiled and chimed in. Jia Lu's thoughts jumped and she suddenly said, "I haven't sparred with you yet, right? Why don't we not draw lots on Friday and challenge you directly?" She wanted to experience the prowess of the heavenly son of China, find the gap and catch up head-on. "This week." "Not this week. Maybe next time." Lu Cheng thought for a while and rejected her suggestion. Why? Did someone arrange it in advance? Asked Jia Lu, puzzled. Lu Cheng replied with a smile. I have something on that afternoon and have to take leave. All right. Jia Lu didn't ask any more questions. She regained the temperament of a bystander who was free from worldly affairs. After Lu Cheng received another round of guidance from the Dragon King and the other physical invulnerability mighty ones, time flew by and it was Friday in the blink of an eye. Ever since he left in the morning and took the SUV to the club, he had been smiling from time to time. He wasn't the least bit annoyed by Amin and Huang Bin's greetings and even took the initiative to chat a little longer. He told them that he wouldn't be having dinner at the restaurant and that he had to leave at 2 in the afternoon and that it would be great if they could arrange for a ride. Amin and Huang Bin couldn't be bothered to guess why he was in such a good mood. They immediately agreed and tried their best to impress him. After spending the entire morning in the dance stage training room, Lu Cheng's efficiency was higher than usual. His appetite was even better at noon and he ate a few more dishes. Just as he was about to tidy up and head to the exclusive resting room, Amin walked in quickly. She smiled and said to all the inhuman mighty ones present, "You can register for the Battle of the Kings now. Who wants to participate? It starts on the 19th of August this year." The Longhu Club's requirement for members of the reserve team was to participate in at least 3 preliminary rounds of the title battle every year. They could choose their own targets. It's rare to have the opportunity to spar with friends of the same level. Tu Zhang was the first to register. Lu Cheng raised his hand and said, "Me too." This was the arrangement that the club had made clear from the start. They would first practice the dance stage chapter of the Fire Sect, then participate in the preliminary rounds of the Battle of the Kings to digest what they had learned through actual combat. Since all of you are going, I'll join in the fun too. Yu Wang Yuan, Sun Jianlin, Lu Xiaofei, and Jia Lu said one after another. Even the inhuman mighty ones who weren't members of the reserve team and had been transferred to management positions had registered. The inhuman level was neither high nor low. It wasn't as eye-catching as the physical invulnerability experts, nor was it as down-to-earth as the body-forging and low-level dance stage experts. It had always been stuck in the middle and didn't have specialized competitions. Currently, the inhuman level competition with the highest standard was the preliminary rounds of the 5 major title battles. The rising stars of the various top forces and almost all the inhuman mighty ones from other sects would participate. It was just that each of them had their own focus. Currently, the Battle of the Kings and Battle of Warrior Sage were not to be missed. Once one could make it through the preliminary rounds of these 2 competitions, one would be able to declare himself as one of the few strongest below physical invulnerability. After Amin finished registering, she smiled like a flower and said, "This time, there are 16 slots for the Battle of the Kings preliminaries. I wish all of you the best of luck in advancing to the main competition and getting the chance to spar with physical invulnerability experts. Phew, there's always someone better than you. Not to mention those of the same age. Those seniors who had been immersed in the inhuman stage for a few years or more than 10 years wouldn't be easy to deal with." Lu Cheng thought for a moment and threw this matter to the back of his mind. After all, there was still more than a month to go. After packing up and making some adjustments, he got into the commercial car with a smile on his face and left the club. The most important thing today was to go to the airport to pick up Cuckoo, his wife. Chapter 554. July 17th, Friday, Huaqing, Heishui Airport. Lu Cheng sent the driver away and waited patiently. He also teamed up with Little Ming to play a few rounds of games. When the software informed Yen Zhaka that her flight was about to land, he quickly announced that this was the last round and gave away his life absent-mindedly. After a while, the girl turned on her phone and sent a message to confirm that she had landed. "I've been waiting for a long time." "Hands on hips expression," replied Lu Cheng. "You're flying to Kingstown, so am I," Yen Zhaka said. "Chin up, rolling eyes expression. Just now a boy saw that my luggage was very heavy and wanted to help me carry it. Then he realized that I could do it with one hand. His expression was quite interesting. Haha, good-looking people can really feel the kindness of the world at any time." Lu Cheng flattered without leaving a trace. While chatting on and off, his eyes suddenly lit up. He saw Yen Zhaka carrying a small black backpack and dragging an orange suitcase. She walked out and entered the arrival hall. The girl's black hair fell down, slanted bangs, pure and beautiful. She wore a simple white t-shirt and dark denim shorts that only reached half of her thighs. She wore a pair of clip-on sandals, revealing her slender white legs and pink and healthy toes. She looked fresh and youthful. Lu Cheng walked up to her, smiled at her and took the suitcase. You need to be qualified to carry Micah's luggage. He continued the previous topic. Of course. Yen Zheka smiled and raised her chin slightly. Lu Cheng stopped and stared at her. He suddenly laughed. I thought you would dress like a fairy, but you're dressed like a girl next door. Yen Zheka's eyes narrowed. I'm just afraid that someone can't control himself and let his animal instincts take over. Every time I dress up, someone's eyes are not right. It's like a person who has been hungry for a long time seeing a big meal. Aren't you on your period today? How can I let my animal instincts take over? Lu Cheng felt wronged. Yen Zheka puffed up her cheeks, widened her eyes and pretended to be angry. That's why I'm afraid. She was afraid that someone would ask for help in other ways. She thought that after not seeing him for a month, her heart would soften and she would be influenced by him even more. She blushed and didn't finish her sentence. She immediately changed the topic and asked seriously, where are we going now? When was I not following the rules and only showing my love during your time? Lu Cheng pretended to be wronged. Yes. You deserve to be praised. Keep up the good work. Yen Zheka had only said that in a hurry. She immediately pursed her lips and reached out to touch her husband's head. Do you think I'm a child? He pulled the girl's wrist and gestured with his chin at the location he had already scouted. Let's rent a car first. It'll be much more convenient for us to go on dates and buy groceries. He didn't have a driver's license, and he had the club to arrange things for him. Cook could only come to America during the winter and summer holidays. If he bought a car directly, he could only eat dust most of the time. It was better to wait until he had booked a house and moved in before he considered it. During this period, he would rent a car to deal with it. Okay. Yen Zheka nodded lightly and walked a few steps before asking in confusion, Cheng, you got your driver's license. Based on a certain someone's personality, shouldn't he have come to show off a long time ago? No. Lu Cheng chuckled. I can only rely on you. Although he could drive by himself, without a driver's license, it was best not to break the law. Yen Zheka opened her pink mouth, feeling both amused and annoyed. She waved her arms and said, Okay, I'll drive you. Sigh, as the head of the family, you have so much to worry about and so much responsibility. That's what a head of the family should be like. Lu Cheng smiled and flattered Cuckoo. When they arrived at the car rental office, the two went through the formalities and paid part of the fee. They picked an Audi TT that Cuckoo was comfortable with. After seeing the staff leave, Lu Cheng signaled Yen Zheka to wait for a while. Then he opened the car door on both sides and took a deep breath. His abdomen bulged like a ball. He activated the ice spirit force, opened his mouth and sunk his chest and abdomen, exhaling the air he had just inhaled. Whoosh! Suddenly, a strong wind blew in the car and the chill rushed. The accumulated heat of the summer dissipated instantly. It was many times more effective than the air conditioner. Whoosh! 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 Lu Cheng did it several times in a row, and the seats in the center console were all back to normal. Yen Zheka was dumbfounded, staring blankly at the side. What kind of operation is this? Lu Cheng stopped and straightened his back. He gestured for her to get in and said with a smile, a friendly reminder. If the car is not parked in a shady place in the summer and has been gone for a long time, you need to cool down and ensure ventilation. Yen Zheka was stunned for a few seconds. She was not stingy with her praise and shouted in a slightly exaggerated manner, Brother Cheng is awesome. No wonder he is a walking multifunctional home appliance. After getting in the car, she adjusted the distance and height of the seats and closed the doors and windows. When Yen Zheka was about to adjust the rearview mirror, Lu Cheng suddenly leaned over and said with a smile, Let me help you adjust it. Ah! The girl was confused and opened her mouth slightly. She did not understand what he meant. Didn't he know that it could be adjusted electrically? Looking at the cute and beautiful face of his little fairy, Lu Cheng kissed her without hesitation. He held her sweet lips in his mouth and explored deeply, dancing with the little fairy. I'm flirting with you, do you understand? Yen Zheka unconsciously raised her arms and hugged Lu Cheng. Her eyes were half closed, and the light in her eyes leaked slightly. After a while, she pushed the pervert away. Just as she was about to scold him, she heard him whisper in her ear, "Long time no see." Her heart softened. She muttered, "Don't we talk every day? I miss you too." Their eyes met. After a moment of tenderness, Yen Zheka suddenly laughed and said, "This is your failed flirting with Marshal Nisimo last time, right? You actually used it on me." "No one else," Lu Cheng answered proudly. She pursed her lips and smiled. She cleared her throat and said, "Where are we going now? Home first or dinner first?" "Look at you. If your stomach doesn't hurt anymore, we'll go to the Lin's restaurant in the university town to eat white-cut chicken and roast goose. The restaurant that Fatty Jiang brought me to before. If you still feel uncomfortable, we'll go home first. I made some fish soup last night and put it in the fridge. I'll heat it up later and cook some noodles. It'll definitely taste good. I also bought a huge portion of old green preserved egg and lean meat porridge. It's the one that you liked the most when we came to Huaqing to watch the competition last time. I just need to cover it with Emperor Yen force and it can be eaten." Yen Zheka turned her head and looked straight ahead. She pursed her lips for more than 10 seconds. She couldn't help but smile. She asked in a sweet voice, "What if I want to eat all of them?" "Then we'll eat all of them. Lin's restaurant first, then home." Lu Cheng made a decision. "Let's go." Yen Zheka dragged her last word and started the car briskly. After filling their stomachs, the two returned to Sky Capital Garden. They found a spot and parked the car. "I'm so tired. I took a plane, had my period, and drove for so long." Yen Zheka locked the car door with a beep. She looked at Lu Cheng and massaged his shoulders as she spoke. She looked exactly like him. Yen Zheka is getting better at acting coquettishly. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. Without another word, he walked to the opposite side and squatted down. "Come, I'll carry you. I just want you to give me a massage later." Yen Zheka was stunned at first. Then she laughed out loud. "There are other people in the neighborhood, and your teammates too. How embarrassing. It's very quiet here at night. Besides, our house is just around the corner." Lu Cheng enticed her. Okay. Yen Zheka's eyes were sparkling. Her tone was a little hesitant, but her movements were without delay. With his arms supporting his knees, Lu Cheng stood up steadily and carried his wife on his back. Under the illumination of the bright moon and lights, they passed through the quiet atrium and the peaceful night and successfully arrived downstairs. It was said that there was only one apartment on each floor. In fact, there were 2 elevators in each unit to prevent malfunction. Unfortunately, tonight, both elevators were broken. The staff was rushing to repair them. Lu Cheng didn't say anything. He stopped Yen Zheka from coming down and turned into the safety passageway. Along the stairs, step by step, he climbed higher and higher. 2 slender legs swayed gently beside him. Little Fairy was humming a faint melody in his ears. Europe. John Wilberg. Princess Irina, who had just finished her 2-country visit, entered the study and saw her tutor sitting on a recliner. He was basking in the sun with his eyes closed. Swaying back and forth, he looked like he was in a deep sleep. "Goo, this is not in line with etiquette." Irina laughed softly. The man on the recliner opened his eyes, which seemed to hide the starry night sky. His hair was mixed with a lot of silver strands, which made him look both old and young. His facial features and skin color indicated that he was Chinese or Chinese. "I'm going out for a trip recently." The man smiled. Irina's eyes darkened. She pretended not to care and asked, "Going to China?" "Yes. I'm going to see that heavenly son of China. Just for a while." Gu Danran answered calmly. He flicked the quaint robe he was wearing. Irina didn't recognize this kind of clothes with a strong oriental flavor before. Later, she found out through the internet that it was called Yue. The Chinese words that were often paired with it were Yue and Xingguan. P.S. Third update for you. Yesterday's update has been made up. Looking for recommendation tickets on Mondage. Chapter 555. After sharing the fish noodle soup and congee with pork and century egg, Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka sat on the sofa in satisfaction. They leaned against each other and chatted casually, as if anything was fun. The TV in front of them was flashing and changing images, but no one was paying attention to what was on. I always feel like I'm forgetting something. Yen Zheka frowned and thought hard as she chatted. Lu Cheng tried to recall, but suddenly he was stunned and blurted out, "Your suitcase." My suitcase. At the same time, Yen Zheka also realized what she had forgotten. I was too focused on carrying you. Lu Cheng explained in a low voice, his mouth twitching. 'Cause suitcase was still in the car. Romantic feelings were stirred at that time, but then the elevator broke down and he completely forgot about it. Forgot. Hurry up and get it, Yen Zheka said with a complicated expression. Okay. Lu Cheng immediately got up and walked out of the door. Watching him leave, Yen Zheka lay down, hugged a pillow, and buried her face in it. She scolded with a smile. Two idiots. My wit and intelligence are often not seen when I'm with Cheng. No, it must be because of the severe loss of blood and lack of blood supply to the brain, causing my memory to blur. That must be it. When Lu Cheng came back with their luggage, they washed up, changed into their pajamas, and lied on the bed. They laughed about it for a long time, making perfect self-deprecations. The bed was big, and they were close. Yen Zheka put her cold hands and feet on Lu Cheng's body and said hurriedly, Ever since I started practicing the swordsman formula, I realize that the duration of my period is getting shorter and shorter. After mastering the wholeness formula, I feel better and better. I don't feel tired even if I stay up all night to rush reports or wake up the next morning for morning exercises. That's right. This is their greatest contribution. Lu Cheng praised the 9 words formula delightedly. Yen Zheka looked up and said thoughtfully, Cheng, do you think that the 9 words formula will have some hidden effect when they're all combined? Usually, when put together, there will be additional variations. Furthermore, for similar mystic arts, the first word or the last word is usually the most unique. For example, the 6 syllables of Sanskrit mantra starts with the word Wang. It contains the will of Buddha and opens up the following 5 notes. It is said that it has the ability to seal and suppress. The attainment formula doesn't seem to be strange at the moment, but could the confrontation formula be more special? If there is a hidden effect, I hope that it's the kind that can make up for the loss. Lu Cheng thought. From the 6 words I have mastered, the confrontation formula. And the military said. There. Yen Zheka was a little sleepy, so she covered her mouth and yawned cutely. But this was the first time they met after a month, so she couldn't bear to sleep. So she found a few topics to chat with Lu Cheng. It was quiet outside, but the sound in the room was soft. It was peaceful and warm. Isn't that Princess Irina sexy? Lu Cheng had shared with his little fairy about how Irina had said, smells good, out of nowhere. Of course, he didn't mention Jia Lu's classic translation. He only brought it up as a topic full of doubts. Yen Zheka didn't feel that Irina was openly flirting with her husband. After all, Jia Lu was beside them. As a member of the royal family, no matter how open she was, she had to consider her reputation. She couldn't be so direct. Using a sparring match as an excuse was more suitable. As for why she was acting strangely, she couldn't find a reasonable answer even after thinking for a long time. Lu Cheng was relieved to hear Yen Zheka's question. Otherwise, he would be breaking out in cold sweat. He pondered for a few seconds before answering firmly, I don't think so. Which part of her is sexy? Your answer is so fake and exaggerated. Yen Zheka glanced at Lu Cheng and snorted. Many people on Weibo are saying that Princess Irina is sexy. Below those news articles. Lu Cheng said casually, everyone has their own opinions. Anyway, I don't think so. I've seen films before and thought they were too big and out of shape. Oh. Yen Zheka pursed her lips. So you like flat breasts? I like the right size. For example. Lu Cheng chuckled. Before he could finish, he was punched hard by his little fairy and couldn't continue. Yen Zheka's eyes narrowed. She propped herself up on her elbows and moved closer to Lu Cheng's head. Her nose twitched, and she sniffed from top to bottom. Which part of your smell is good? Why can't I feel it? The sweet fragrance assailed his nostrils. Her breath tickled his heart. Her delicate body pressed against him and rubbed against him. Lu Cheng's heart rippled. Desire rose rapidly and he couldn't control himself anymore. You pervert. The girl felt a familiar resistance. She was stunned at first. Then she rolled her eyes and scolded him with blushing cheeks. So it's my fault? Lu Cheng smiled embarrassedly. It's all because my little fairy is too charming. He condensed water into ice and turned the lake into a mirror. Looking down from above, he restrained his desire and controlled the subtle flow of his qi and blood. The tent collapsed instantly. Yen Zheka was stunned for a moment. She sighed blankly. How magical. Ever since he entered the realm of all-seeing God, Cheng had developed a lot of strange abilities. After such an interruption, she forgot about the smell. After chatting for a while, they kissed deeply and said good night to each other. The night passed peacefully until dawn. The next morning, after the couple finished their training, they drove to Longhu Club. Why don't I go? The closer they got, the more shy Yen Zheka felt. They were all strangers. She felt embarrassed. What are you afraid of? We are legally married. Haven't you always wanted to eat breakfast at our restaurant and visit the club's exhibition room? Lu Cheng smiled and said enchantingly. Yen Zheka bit her lower lip lightly. She decided to hide her face in her pocket. Well, actually I want to go to the places you've been to and experience the life you've lived. When they arrived at the club and parked the car, Lu Cheng saw Aman and Huang Bin approaching before they could enter. I mentioned her yesterday. She's my wife. Lu Cheng introduced Yen Zheka frankly. He had called the assistant team and told them that he would be bringing his family to visit the club today. He also asked the kitchen to prepare more dishes. Your girlfriend is so pretty. Aman complimented sincerely. Wife, it's my wife. Lu Cheng emphasized in his heart. While casually exchanging pleasantries, he pulled Yen Zheka, who had suddenly become gentle and graceful, into the club and into the restaurant under the escort of Aman and Huang Bin. As the two of them were whispering sweet nothings, they left home late. There was no one in the restaurant for breakfast, giving them a quiet date. After filling their stomachs, they went to the exhibition room on the 3rd floor. It was very spacious, with all kinds of trophies on display. There was also a room dedicated to broadcasting Longhu Club's glorious moments and classic battles. I feel like I can watch this for many days. Yen Zheka sighed. She turned to Lu Cheng and said, You go ahead and practice. I'll be fine here. Seeing Lu Cheng hesitate, Aman stood up immediately. Mr. Lu, don't worry. I'm free today. I'll keep Miss Yen company. I won't let her be unfamiliar with this place. Everything else could be pushed aside. Thank you. Lu Cheng was relieved. He smiled sincerely and nodded. His impression of Aman improved instantly. This girl is very reliable. I'm going to the training room. Let's talk on QQ. Lu Cheng raised his phone to Yen Zheka and got a sweet smile in response. Huang Bin, who was watching from the side, felt bitter. He wanted to compete with Lu Cheng, but he didn't dare. A grown man trying to curry favor with Lu Cheng's girlfriend. No matter how sincere he was, it would make Lu Cheng feel uncomfortable. It would be counterproductive. Sigh, this society is unfair to men and women, but sometimes it's more convenient for girls to do things. Aman didn't notice Huang Bin's expression. Her mind was filled with Lu Cheng's sincere thanks. This is unprecedented. She suddenly felt that she had found the pulse of this heavenly son of the era. He's probably a henpecked husband. Pleasing his girlfriend is more effective than pleasing him. They focused on practicing martial arts and chatted occasionally. Once it was noon, Lu Cheng immediately left the training room. He went to the exhibition room to watch classic battles with his little fairy for half an hour before heading to the dining hall again. At this time, Tu Zhang, Jia Lu and the rest were still eating halfway and hadn't left yet. This is my wife, Yen Zheka. Lu Cheng smiled and introduced her to everyone. This is the captain of our reserve team, Tu Zhang and Team Tuesday. This is Yu Wangyun. A perfect match. Tu Zhang and the rest praised with a smile. She's also very talented. Lu Cheng complimented. He didn't exchange more pleasantries with them and pulled Yen Zheka to choose the food. When the table was filled with food, Yen Zheka looked left and right. She lowered her voice and laughed. It feels like I'm here to declare my sovereignty. Yeah, do you want a stamp? Lu Cheng raised his arm and said humorously, "Just a stamp that says only for little fairy?" Yen Zheka looked up and said jokingly, "I want to cover my face so that everyone can see it at a glance." "Come." Lu Cheng laughed and pointed to his mouth. In return, he got a flirtatious look. Just like that, the two of them settled down in Huaqing. They went on dates during the weekends. Usually, one would focus on practicing martial arts and rest early while the other would visit, study, discuss, or interact. It was a sweet and warm life. When the girls' period was over, Lu Cheng almost tasted the feeling of not attending morning court. Fortunately, he persevered with great perseverance. In the blink of an eye, August came. Longhu Club would begin its 2-week away trip. Yen Zheka would have to return to Xiaofan in the middle of the month to spend some time with Father Yen and Empress Dowager. She would come back for another 2 or 3 days before flying to Connecticut. She would depart from Huaqing. August 5th. The night was dark and the sea was dark. A ship sailed over the international waters and stopped at the border. "All right, you can go back now," a man wearing a simple feathered coat said to the ship owner. His black hair was mixed with silver strands, but he looked very young. The ship owner looked left and right but didn't see anyone coming to help. At this moment, his heart skipped a beat. He turned around and saw that the strangely dressed man was nowhere to be seen. Splash! The sea crashed onto the shore and rolled up waves. A figure walked out of the water. His hair was wet and his clothes were sticking to him. Stepping onto the beach, the man walked while ice flakes fell. In the end, white steam rose around him and he was as dry as before. P.S. Looking for recommendation tickets on Monday. Chapter 556. August 9th, Sunday, 8:00 p.m. A taxi turned the corner and headed for Sky Capital Garden. Lu Cheng sat on the right and looked out of the window. He suggested to Yen Zheka, "Why don't we let the driver drive us there and buy some fruits before we go home?" Ko had always been full of praise for the fruits in Huaqing. "No, there's more in the fridge." She made a gesture to relax her neck. "I'm so tired from the flight." The Longhu Club's competition this week was to go north to Jinfeng City and challenge the Guanwei League. They had almost crossed the entire country. Lu Cheng and Yen Zheka set off on Thursday, August 6th. They went to see Xing Jingjing and watch the battle. It was a short trip, so it was inevitable that they were tired from the long journey. "Yeah, you're right. Even my waist and back are a little sore." Lu Cheng tried to agree but was stopped by the girl's expression. He quickly changed the topic and said with an embarrassed smile, "It's a pity that we're not going to Jinfeng in winter." "Yeah. I want to buy a popsicle on their Central Street. It must be very interesting." Yen Zheka said excitedly, "Also there are holes in the ice to catch fish, downhill skiing, and..." She listed her unfulfilled wishes one by one, as if she was making a list. "Yeah, we'll go again next time." Lu Cheng recalled the delicious food. "I think their stewed fish is just a... Maybe it's because I didn't eat good food. But the Korean food is pretty good." "Yeah, we didn't have the chance to eat the barbecue skewers this time. I wonder what's the difference between the barbecue skewers in Xiaoshan, Songqing, and Huadu." Yen Zheka rolled her eyes and suddenly felt a little hungry. At this time, the taxi stopped at the main entrance of Sky Capital Garden. Lu Cheng paid with his mobile phone and got off first. He took his backpack and his wife's luggage so that they wouldn't forget. Hand in hand, they walked slowly. After a few steps, they suddenly saw a shadow coming out from the side of the road and going to the opposite side of the road. Lu Cheng looked and found a man in a short-sleeved polo shirt. He looked very young, but his black hair was mixed with a lot of silver, so it was hard to tell his age. The man looked straight ahead, as if he was waiting for something, but it didn't happen, so he planned to leave. When they brushed past each other, Lu Cheng felt a slight change in the jindan in his lower abdomen. However, when he formed the ice mirror and examined it carefully, he didn't discover anything. It seemed to be just an illusion. "What's wrong?" Yen Zheka sensed something and turned her head in confusion. "Nothing." Lu Cheng shook his head and answered. In the end, the jindan was only an external object and did not belong to him. He hoped that he could gather the 9 words formula as soon as possible and figure out its mysteries so that he would not be taken advantage of in the future. From the corner of his eyes, He saw that the man just now had waved his hand and stopped a passing taxi. He got into the taxi and left the place without doing anything strange. After the confusion dissipated, Lu Cheng threw this matter to the back of his mind and returned home with his wife. The two searched for ingredients in the fridge and helped each other to make 2 bowls of noodles for supper. If I eat like you every day, I'll get fat sooner or later. Yen Zheka looked at the 2 empty bowls with grievance. Well, a certain someone's basin. You can watch me eat. Lu Cheng snickered. Great, you bully me. You only let me watch and not let me eat. Yen Zheka's eyes sparkled and she smiled. Lu Cheng didn't dare to continue this topic. He sighed and said, Sigh, you're going back to Xiaofan tomorrow. Half a month had passed so quickly. Yen Zheka bit her lower lip and pretended to be energetic. So tonight, we'll watch the stars and the moon and talk about poetry and life philosophy. This line sounds familiar. Lu Cheng thought carefully and finally understood. He was amused. Laughter washed away the sadness of separation. However, in the middle of the night, the couple really did cuddle up and look at the bright moon outside the window. The lights in the room were off. It was cold outside, and the light shone into the room, dyeing the dark country into a dreamy dream. Yen Zheka curled up in Lu Cheng's arms and pressed her skin against his, refusing to sleep. After I graduate, I want to do something big. I want to expand my mom's company to Huadu. As she spoke, she laughed to herself. But I don't like to socialize. I guess I can only be a consultant. I can't let my brother Cheng eat alone all the time. Or I can apply for a job at a university in Huadu and take the path of a scholar to study economic issues. Seeing Yen Zheka talking about the future, Lu Cheng said with a look of longing, I've pretty much mastered the dance stage chapter of the fire sect. I'm good at some, but I'm only at the beginner level. After the training in the Battle of the Kings preliminaries, I should be a genuine senior 4th pin expert. Next February, before my birthday, I'll strive to reach the level close to physical invulnerability. Yes, with the realm of encountering gods in the void, self-reflection, this shouldn't be too much of an obstacle. Think about it. Ice mirror can reflect a certain area around itself with precision down to the millimeter. Isn't it a little similar to the most basic thing in heavenly connection? When the time comes, I'll give myself 3 years to break through to physical invulnerability. I can't stay too long, or I'll lose my drive and drive. I can't stay too short either. Once I get impatient and anxious, things will get troublesome. I feel like the gap between us is getting bigger. Yen Zheka didn't hide her sigh and worry, seeking her husband's comfort. How can that be? He changed the topic and said, Ran Li is confirmed to be participating. Daxing Temple has also sent a few outstanding mighty ones. The same goes for the other sects and families. Don't underestimate them. Speaking of which, I haven't really fought with a direct disciple of Daxing Temple. This is a good opportunity to experience it. Hands on hips expression, Lu Cheng said excitedly. I say, Lu Cheng, can you not send me childish emojis when you're talking to me online? Every time I see you send such emojis, I'm thinking how sad it is to be defeated by such an opponent. Peng Layun sent an emoji covering his face and sighing. He didn't delete all the words. Damn, Daoist, you have such a venomous tongue? Also, what does that too mean? Explain. Before Lu Cheng could type, a message from Ran Li suddenly came in. Lu Cheng, I think we've only fought once. And it's a draw. Let's determine the winner this time. Sure. Lu Cheng agreed without hesitation. At this moment, he thought of Chaoyang and wondered if he should ask Hipster if he would be participating in the preliminaries of Battle of the Kings. This guy had said a while ago that he was about to break through. Did he? Before Lu Cheng could ask Chaoyang, Hipster had already sent him a message. I'm in Linfu. Want to meet for dinner tonight? Sure. Lu Cheng sent an emoji of there's only one truth. You've broken through? Yeah, I've finally reached the inhuman stage. I've also stabilized my foundation. And Chaoyang replied, half happy and half sad. Congrats, congrats. Lu Cheng glanced at Tu Zhang and the rest at the side and lowered his head again. He found a name but didn't dare to ask. This name was brother-in-law. Ke said that he hadn't broken through in June. If he were to ask if he would be participating in the Battle of the Kings, it would definitely be a blow to him. Forget it, there's still a chance in the future. Lu Cheng was in a slightly complicated mood when the high-speed train stopped at Linfu Station. This was a city famous for the Battle of the Kings. Chapter 557. The sea breeze passed through the crowded city, leaving no unique smell behind. The tourists coming and going spoke Mandarin with various accents, and most of them looked excited. To them, it was not only to watch the competition, but also to take the opportunity to have a vacation. It had to be said that the timing of the Battle of the Kings preliminaries was quite good. During the summer holidays, the students were free, and their parents would take time to accompany them. It complemented well with the Battle of the Warrior Sage preliminaries before the end of the year. When the Longhu Club arrived at the Wanhua Hotel where they were staying, the lobby was already filled with welcoming crowds. Some were youthful, some were full of youthful energy, some were full of vigor, some were over the age of 30, some were mature with joy, and some were just reporters. Lu Cheng, what is your goal for this Battle of the Kings? Do you have the confidence to get a spot in the main competition? Who are you looking forward to the most? Peng Liyun, Ren Li, or the warrior monk from Daxing Temple? Hello, Tu Zheng. I heard you won against Lu Cheng in the sparring session? Will you make use of this Battle of the Kings to make a breakthrough? Meng Liang from Shizhou Island, who defeated you last time, has also registered. Do you have anything to say? The most popular and newsworthy ones were undoubtedly Lu Cheng, the heavenly son of China, and Tu Zheng, who was expected to reach physical invulnerability within 2 years. This made Yu Wangyuan, Lu Xiaofan, and the others, who only had a few reporters following them, feel disappointed. What made them sigh even more was that the few reporters only interviewed them because they couldn't squeeze in beside Lu Cheng and Tu Zheng. With comparison, there was motivation. They secretly clenched their fists, their eyes burning with passion. All right, everyone, please make way. If you have any questions, we will arrange for a special interview time. The deputy director of the foreign affairs team and the leader of this Battle of the Kings, Xiang Tong, slightly unleashed his aura and opened up a path. The hotel security also formed a human wall, isolating the outside from the outside. Lu Cheng remembered Coach Yan's guidance. At times like this, all he had to do was smile. Occasionally, when he saw fans stretching their arms, he would happily take the pen and paper, sign his name, and hand it back. In exchange, he would be greeted with screams of Lu Cheng. After trekking for a while, they finally entered the elevator and arrived at the 33rd floor. It was quiet all around. This is an individual competition, so there are no hard and fast rules. There are only 2 reminders. Leader Xiang Tong clapped his hands and said with a smile, "First, don't miss the competition. Second, try not to cause any trouble." Okay. Everyone answered casually. Then, they took their room cards and went to look for their rooms. Lu Cheng told the team leader in private that he would not be joining them for dinner because he had an appointment with his friend. No problem, as long as it doesn't affect your condition. Xiang Tong smiled ambiguously and nodded. What kind of thinking is this? Lu Cheng emphasized, male friends. Oh. Xiang Tong's eyes suddenly became strange. He took a step back and then laughed. I'm just kidding. Psycho. Lu Cheng's mouth twitched as he cursed in his heart. He was deeply concerned about the leader's brain. After entering the room, Lu Cheng put away his luggage and tidied up. He waited for a while until the sky turned dark. Then he put on his black-rimmed glasses, changed his clothes, and slipped out of the hotel. He walked on the hot road. After leaving the Wanhua Hotel, he stopped the taxi and went to Guanchao Street. The street was full of seafood stalls. It was crowded and bustling. In front of the well-decorated Linfu Century Grilled Fish Restaurant, and Chao Yang, who still had his artistic hair, was wearing headphones. His hands were in his pockets and his eyes were half closed. He looked peaceful as if he was sleeping. I've made a reservation. He smiled and greeted Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng's nose twitched as he tried to distinguish the smell in the air. It smells good. A local friend recommended it. It can't be wrong. And Chao Yang smiled and turned to enter the restaurant. A local friend. Lu Cheng casually repeated. And Chao Yang looked as if he would fall asleep at any moment. I met him on a travel forum. He likes music. Sounds complicated. Lu Cheng pulled out a chair and sat down. He looked around and said, "Should we order the fish first or wait for Priest and Renli?" "Let's order first. We eat a lot, so we need to prepare." And Chaoyang thought for a while and asked, "How long before they arrive?" "Aren't you the one contacting them?" Lu Cheng asked blankly. "I thought you would contact them." And Chaoyang stared at him. "Shouldn't it be the person who is supposed to treat?" After a short pause, Lu Cheng tried to shift the blame. "When we were in Shangxiang, you were the one who was more active and contacted everyone." And Chaoyang analyzed his thoughts. There was another moment of silence. Lu Cheng sighed and picked up his phone. "Should I ask them out now?" "Forget it. It's almost dinner time. They're either not here yet or have already eaten. Let's meet again in a few days." And Chaoyang laughed at himself and got up to order the fish. When he came back, he sat back down and took off his headphones. He put them aside and put them on. He put on a serious expression as he ate and chatted with Lu Cheng. "Hipster, this is the highest respect you can give your friends, right?" Lu Cheng joked. Even though he didn't listen in the past, he would still hang his headphones around his neck. "Are you praising me or mocking me?" And Chaoyang laughed. "How is it? Have you mastered the dance stage chapter of the fire sect?" "I've already mastered what I need to," Lu Cheng answered concisely. He then asked, "What are your plans this time? Are you going to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat?" "Don't make fun of me." And Chaoyang laughed and shook his head. "I just broke through not long ago and have just stabilized. I'm just here to see the world and train myself. I don't have any extravagant hopes. You, on the other hand, haven't you thought about getting a spot in the main competition?" "I'd be lying if I said I didn't," Lu Cheng answered honestly. "Then you'll have a lot of competition. This time, all the strongest reserves and seniors of the top forces are here. Many of them are on par with Tu Zhang or even stronger. For example, Fa Zhan and Ji Ran from Daxing Temple, Ming Shi from Shangqing Sect, Go Wen from Xuanwu Sect, Qing Feng from Shushan Study, Wang Xian from Yanzhou League, Zheng Shi Duo from Guanwai League, Meng Liang from Shizhou Island." And Chaoyang said as he pondered, "Fa Zhan is here too? He's from my grandfather's generation." Lu Cheng was shocked. Fa Zhan was the junior brother of Daxing Temple's abbot Fa Yuan and the martial uncle of Wisdom King Ji Hai. He was 51 years old this year and belonged to Geezer Shi's generation of inhuman mighty ones. He had been a reserve physical invulnerability expert for more than 20 years. Unfortunately, he hadn't been able to break through. Although it was hopeless now, he had been at the peak of inhuman for so many years and his body hadn't deteriorated. He was definitely an expert not to be underestimated. But didn't this old man, no, the eminent monk, cultivate his mind and spirit and meditate on Wukong? Why did he come here to register for the Battle of the King's preliminaries? As for Ji Ren, he was the senior brother of Wisdom King Ji Hai and living Buddha Shi Shan. He was 29 years old and had a chance of attaining physical invulnerability. Living Buddha was different from the orthodox lineage of Daxing Temple and had a different title. As for Ming Shi, Go Wen, and the rest, although they weren't heavenly sons of the era, they were reserve physical invulnerability experts of various big forces. Go Wen was the strongest expert of Xuanwu Sect, the former warrior sage and grandmaster, Long Dam that protects the sea, Ma Xinghong, believed that she would break through in the coming year. Hearing Lu Cheng's surprise, and Chaoyang smiled and said, "Senior Fa Zhan has always had a regret. He has never entered the Battle of the King's main competition. Therefore, he is here to fulfill his wish. He's bullying the younger generation." Lu Cheng joked. Including the second and third Inhumans, the police force, martial arts school, and the mighty ones who have transitioned into different professions, the number of people who have registered for this preliminaries is probably more than 400. And Chaoyang sipped his tea and discussed the Battle of the Kings with Lu Cheng. Of course, this didn't equate to all the Inhumans. They had a great time talking about this topic that everyone was interested in. The grilled fish was delicious too. It was fragrant and made people want to eat more. After the fun, Lu Cheng returned to the hotel and video-called Yan Zhaka to talk about the mighty ones he had just mentioned. The next evening, the registration closed. 2 hours later, the organizer announced the matchups for the first round. The competition this time would be held in 4 venues at the same time. There would be battles in the morning, afternoon, and night. The first round would last for 2 days. It would be a single elimination round. After that it would be the same. When there were 64 people left, the double elimination round would begin. The remaining 16 people would enter the main competition. Lu Cheng browsed the web, looking for his name. He saw Peng Liyun, Ren Li, Go Wen, Fa Zhen, and the others. He realized that their opponents weren't popular. Finally, he saw himself. Morning of the 19th, Guanhai Martial Arts Stadium, 6th round, Longhu Club, Lu Cheng. On the other side of the dash was Shizhou Island, Lin Yu. Cheng, this is a famous senior. Beep. Yen Zheka sent a message. Lu Cheng copied the name and typed it into the search box. Soon, he got the information of his opponent. Lin Yu, 42 years old. He had been at the inhuman stage for 16 years. His immortal flesh was terrifyingly strong. He had been at the high pin level for a total of 16 years. I just want to enter the second round uneventfully. Lu Cheng replied to Ku with an emoji of covering its face and sighing. In a small hotel in Linfu, a man with black hair mixed with silver strands looked at the computer screen and shook his head slightly. On the morning of the 19th, a reporter stopped Lin Yu outside the Guanhai Martial Arts Stadium. He asked the successful Mighty One, "What are your thoughts on picking Lu Cheng?" Lin Yu smiled and said, "Beat him while I still have the chance." Chapter 558. After answering, Lin Yu didn't stay any longer. He took large strides and entered the Guanhai Martial Arts Stadium. The reporter didn't dare to pester him as he was afraid that he would be accused of harassing a martial artist before the match and affect his condition. Just as he was about to take a short break and drink some water, he suddenly saw a car stop at the side door. Tu Zheng, Lu Xiaofan and Lu Cheng alighted. The 10 inhuman mighty ones from the Longhu Club were arranged at 3 different venues. Joy and excitement surged in his heart. He hurried over and blocked Lu Cheng's way before he could enter the room. Huff, huff, I only have 2 questions, he panted half realistically and half pretentiously to show that his job wasn't easy. The few security guards at the side looked at Lu Cheng and waited for his reply. If he wasn't willing, they would immediately take action and separate the reporter. Lu Cheng was relatively calm. Seeing that there was no one around and that he wouldn't be surrounded, he nodded gently and said, "All right." The reporter immediately blurted out, "Do you have the confidence to stand out among the mighty ones like Go Wen, Fa Zhen, Ji Ren, Meng Liang and Tu Zheng? What are your chances of defeating them?" "That's 2 questions," reminded Lu Cheng with a smile. He then shook his head and said, "But I don't want to answer." "Ah." The reporter was stunned for a moment. "Not asking me about the upcoming match and instead mentioning other martial artists. This is disrespectful to Senior Lin Yu," said Lu Cheng seriously. The reporter nodded thoughtfully. "Then what are your thoughts on the upcoming battle?" "I'll work hard to win," answered Lu Cheng firmly. Seeing that Tu Zhang and Lu Xiaofan had already entered the side door and were waiting for him in front, he waved his hand. Without waiting for the reporter to speak, he followed them in a flash. "There's still one more question," shouted the reporter, his voice trailing off. Should I use the headline, "Lu Cheng goes back on his words," or "A heavenly son of the era doesn't know how to count," to attract more attention? He mischievously thought about how funny it would be. Back to the topic. With the interview just now, I can already create a headline news. Every inhuman was an expert with status and position. Linfu, which was famous for hosting the Battle of the Kings, naturally had a special design for the martial arts stadium. A few of the changing rooms were no longer so spacious that they could accommodate 10 to 20 people at the same time. Instead, they were partitioned into small resting rooms. There were individual bathrooms, couches for temporary sleeping, cabinets, Wi-Fi, and LCD TVs hanging on the wall. They had to ensure that there were enough of them to satisfy the needs of the experts. Lu Cheng's, Tu Zheng's and Lu Xiaofei's rooms were next to each other. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the 3 of them went back to their own homes to make preparations and adjustments before the match. Not long after, the first match of the Guanhai Martial Arts Gym began to play on the TV screen. This year's Battle of the Kings had officially begun. It was different from the individual competitions of lower ranks. Due to the fact that high-ranked fights would affect the surrounding areas, one arena could not be divided into 5 or even 10 arenas to prevent them from getting too close to each other and affecting each other. That was why only the central arena had fights. The surrounding arenas were empty, acting as isolation zones. In this way, in addition to the seats closest to the arena being empty, the safety of the audience and the need to watch the matches in clear view were met. Lu Cheng turned the channel leisurely. Sometimes he would watch the local matches, and sometimes he would pay attention to the fights in other arenas. During this process, he held his phone in his hand and exchanged views with Yan Zhaka as they discussed their opponents. Only when the 4th match of the Guanhai martial arts gym ended did he lock the screen. Leaning back, he closed his eyes and recharged his energy. Through the fine control of his body, his condition quickly climbed to the peak. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Xiaoling commented, excited. It's been 4 months. I can finally watch my Lu Cheng's matches again. I've captured a Liaozi. Where have you been recently? Unparalleled Dragon King was shocked. Yan Xiaoling replied matter-of-factly, I haven't been missing. I've been lying in bed every day, watching TV programs and dramas. I've also been reading the forums every day. I've been busy managing them. It's just that I'm too lazy to type. You're lazy to a certain extent, Brahman replied. I wasn't even this dispirited after my middle school exams. She had just graduated from her 3rd year of middle school this year. I'll be in my 3rd year when school reopens. In a year, I'll be in my 4th year. In another year, I'll be working. Just let me cherish the last few times I'm dispirited. Yan Xiaoling didn't feel ashamed at all. Look, even a lazy person like me has specially come to the forum to discuss the match. Lu Cheng will definitely win today. Shu, keep a low profile. Save your luck. All the good names are taken by dogs replied. A lot of cats also popped up. Yan Xiaoling, have you memorized the vocabulary yet? Don't mention such unpleasant things when I'm looking forward to it. Crying face emoji, Yan Xiaoling replied. Lin Yu is not easy to win. Unparalleled Dragon King emphasized. Bull Demon King laughed. Yeah. Just the fact that he beat Dragon King and Warrior Sage in the past is enough for him to brag about for the rest of his life. He beat Dragon King and Warrior Sage. Falling to the ground expression. Nye Chi-Chi expressed her shock. He won once. That was when Warrior Sage and Dragon King had just entered the Inhuman stage. With the strength of a senior 4th pin, he won 1 match in the Master Battle and 1 in the Supreme Class Battle. Unparalleled Dragon King explained with a smile. As expected of a senior. Brahman heaved a sigh of relief and praised. This is all old news. The martial art that I'm most envious of in my life is the immortal flesh. Okamoto's fan snickered. What's the most important thing for a man? He's soft when he needs to be and hard when he needs to be. He's so dirty that he can't even see his own fingers. Is the immortal flesh very powerful? Yan Xiaoling, a half-assed martial arts enthusiast, maintained her good habit of asking questions whenever she didn't understand. The most powerful martial art of Shizhou Island. What do you think? Unparalleled Dragon King described. Not only does it have great strength and endurance, but it can also nullify or reduce the effects of most poisons. It's impenetrable by fire, impenetrable by water, and has extremely strong recovery ability. In short, it's like wearing a reflective armor. Is he fine even if he doesn't eat, drink, or go to the toilet for a long time? Eyes wide open expression, asked Yan Xiaoling. This senior is very powerful, but Lu Cheng will definitely win. Theoretically, yes. A plumber eating mushrooms replied, wandering over. Yan Xiaoling sent an expression of slamming the table. I'm so envious. If I can master it, I can really not get out of bed for a month. Everyone was speechless. After more than 20 minutes, Lu Cheng suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were shining like the brightest stars in the dark night sky. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, there was a rhythmic knock on the door of the resting room. It was neither light nor heavy, just right. Who is it? Lu Cheng asked knowingly. Mr. Lu, your match is about to start. It's time for you to go on stage. The staff member lowered his voice, afraid that he would disturb the other inhuman experts in the resting room. All right. Lu Cheng picked up his phone and asked for a love cheer from his wife. He opened the door and walked out of the area with the staff member. He walked into the competition venue. Lu Cheng! Lu Cheng! Shouts rang out suddenly, gathering and soaring to the sky. It was as if they could flip the roof of the stadium. This familiar feeling made Lu Cheng's body tremble slightly. It was as if he had returned to the national competition. How nostalgic! How I like it! He waved to the surroundings and walked to the side of the arena amidst even more enthusiastic cheers. He walked up the stone steps without showing off his aura. It was like the calm before a snowstorm. Lin Yu was already waiting on the opposite side. He was about 1.8 m tall and his golden martial arts suit swelled slightly with the rhythm of his breathing. It was as if he had a unique vitality. He had a thin buzz cut, thick eyebrows, and deep eyes. He had a calm temperament and sharp edges. There was nothing special about his facial features. He looked more like a successful person from a debt collection company than a martial artist. Seeing Lu Cheng enter the arena, he smiled and nodded with a relaxed expression. Lu Cheng, who had handed his belongings to the competition supervisor, returned the greeting calmly. The referee checked the clock and raised his right hand. Conversation time starts now. Lin Yu cleared his throat and smiled. In this place, I have met the Dragon King, the Martial Sage, the Wisdom King, the Living Buddha, and many talented young people. Lu Cheng didn't interrupt him and patiently waited for him to finish. I won very few of these matches and lost many of them. But now that I think about it, every match is as fresh as if it had just happened. When I first had no chance to reach the physical invulnerability stage, I was very depressed and didn't participate in title matches for a few years. When I finally calmed down, I realized how much I missed this place. I missed those unique opponents. The Dragon King's aggressive nature and the Warrior Sage's oppressive aura. So I came back and witnessed the young people either soaring to the clouds or leaving dejectedly. I saw the Living Buddha who seemed to be able to see through everything, and the Wisdom King who didn't bother with work and kept the complexity simple. As he talked about this topic, the lines on his face seemed to soften. I'm not saying this to provoke you or anything else. I'm telling you that I'll enjoy fighting another heavenly son of the era. Lin Yu's eyes lit up as if they were filled with an indescribable vitality. Then please enlighten me, Senior. Lu Cheng was moved and sincerely admired him. This is a pure martial artist. Senior? If your master hears this, he'll give you a tight slap. Lin Yu laughed. We have to talk as equals. I keep forgetting the fact that my master is very senior. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. For the rest of the time, both of them didn't speak and kept themselves in peak condition. The referee glanced at the electronic clock and swung his arm down. His voice shook the surroundings. Begin. Lu Cheng's first title match had officially begun. Bam! He twisted his waist and broke through the air barrier. Stirring up a strong wind, he flashed to Lin Yu's left side at high speed. He didn't want to fight head-on with his opponent. Lin Yu stood there without any reaction, like an immovable mountain. Bam! Lu Cheng gathered his breathing and blood, shook his shoulders, and punched with his right fist towards his opponent's temple. Lin Yu raised his arm to block, his muscles bulging naturally as he blocked. At this moment, the Emperor Yen force in Lu Cheng's fist exploded, creating a downward force. Bam! He swung his arm and his fist changed direction strangely, smashing down on Lin Yu's neck. The 15th style of the fire sect, Jet Spray. At this critical moment, Lin Yu suddenly took a deep breath. His neck swelled like a python that had swallowed an elephant. His skin was stretched to its limits, glistening with a mixture of green and red. Poof! Lu Cheng's punch landed, creating ripples as if he had hit something made of thousands of pieces of cowhide. Lin Yu had actually blocked his attack with his fragile neck. Indestructible flesh. Elephant swallowing. Lu Cheng was prepared. He flicked his joints, spread his fingers, and shot out a few aurora for a second attack. However, Lin Yu only tilted his head to avoid hitting his arteries, allowing the crystal-cold light to pierce through his tough skin and into his neck. Bam! At the same time, he threw out a punch, forcing Lu Cheng to retreat, unwilling to fight him in close combat. Whoosh! 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 The ice spikes on his neck popped out. No blood flowed, and the wound wriggled, quickly healing. Heroes indeed come from the young. He moved his neck and chuckled. Chapter 559. Heroes indeed come from the young. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Yu's bones cracked and his muscles tightened and loosened. It was as if there were thousands of lungs in his body that were pulling bellows, creating a roar that reverberated in the stadium, forcibly suppressing the waves of cheers. It was as if an army of fierce tigers was roaring in the forest. Bam! Lin Yu took a big stride forward, using distance reduction and exploding the air barrier, causing the strong wind to hit Lu Cheng's face. He raised his right arm, seemingly clenching his fist like a tiger's claw. He swung it down fiercely, creating another tiger's roar and leaving a trail of white air behind him. The tiger has become a demon. Praised unparalleled Dragon King in Lu Cheng's fan forum. To be able to practice the most common tiger form to such an extent and display such a level, it was truly not easy. Lu Cheng didn't dodge. Instead, he quickly visualized as Lin Yu closed in. First, it was the deep and cold universe, followed by the appearance of thunderclouds that broke the silence. Using the realm of encountering gods in the void, he reduced the preparation of his muscles, fascias, organs, and qi and blood. He shook his right shoulder and swung his arm upwards. His fist shot into the sky like a cannonball. Severe warning. In a battle of this level, Lin Yu's attacks weren't tight enough, nor were they roundabout. This gave him enough opportunities to use simplified physical invulnerability moves. He wanted to see if his opponent was equally outstanding in terms of mental strength apart from physical strength. Bam! Lu Cheng's sky rocket cannon hit his opponent's swinging fist. A cold light flashed and covered the entire area. The tiger claw that was about to pop out froze on the spot. Lin Yu's eyes were blank, as though frozen. Raising his shoulder and swinging his left arm, Lu Cheng spread his fingers. His fascias protruded as he dug at his opponent's eyes. Kill him while he's down. But at this moment, Lin Yu, whose eyes were blank, tilted his head and instinctively raised his other arm to block Lu Cheng's grab. He completed the block while his mind was frozen. Indestructible flesh. Thoughtless and thoughtless. Lu Cheng clasped her forearm with his 5 fingers. He felt that her arm was soft, tough, and strong. Her strength was enough to tear apart steel plates, but she only tore his sleeve. At the same time, Lin Yu regained consciousness due to his indestructible flesh body's high resistance to mental attacks. He tightened his thighs and whipped out his tiger tail. Like a steel whip made of alloy, he lashed out abruptly and viciously at Lu Cheng. Compared to the Golden Bell Shield, the indestructible flesh body and the body of the unmovable Wisdom King each had their own strengths. It was precisely because of this that Lin Yu dared to be so bold and unafraid of simplified physical invulnerability moves. Bang! Lu Cheng seemed to have anticipated this and let go of his grip in advance. With a burst of strength in his abdomen, he was propelled backwards. In an instant, he slid more than 10 meters away, leaving 2 crystal-like tracks on the ground. Crack! Lin Yu's kick missed, but he immediately tapped the ground and combined perfectly with the withdrawal and eruption of his qi and blood. He transformed into an eagle soaring in the sky and pounced on Lu Cheng. His shadow covered Lu Cheng's line of sight and figure. This time, there was no room for simplified physical invulnerability moves. Thump! His feet planted firmly on the ground. He swung his right fist and punched out. His left arm followed suit and connected like a machine gun. Boom! 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 His fascia stretched, his joints sprang, and the Dan force in his abdomen erupted like a volcano. Lin Yu's machine punch felt like thousands of cannons were firing at the same time. It was fast, fierce, brilliant, and magnificent. In his eyes, Lu Cheng's pupils suddenly turned red and then purple. He pushed his palms out calmly and blocked the 2 cannonball-like fists. Phew! Lu Cheng opened his mouth and spat out a light purple flame. It merged with the flame stream in his palms and collapsed into a vortex, firmly blocking the enemy's attack. Simplified physical invulnerability move of the fire sect, Purple Sun. Boom! The whirlpool exploded, shooting out purple flames and hitting Lin Yu's body. However, Lin Yu only closed his eyes and took the hit with his body. Shallow burn marks were left all over his body, but they quickly fell off. He was as good as new, without any injuries. Lu Cheng used the rebound of the explosion to pull his waist and back. He leaped more than 10 meters away and out of the range of machine punch. Seeing Lin Yu pouncing on him again, he lowered his arms and shook his wrists, throwing out the white cold light and red flames that were moving close to the ground. At the same time, he swung his center of gravity and bulged his muscles. He forcibly turned around and changed his position with the help of the strong wind. Thump, thump. It was as if there was a gigantic elephant running on the arena. Lin Yu broke through the cold light and scattered the flames. No matter if it was the cold or the burning heat, he was not affected at all. He was not slowed down at all. His muscles were bulging out of his golden martial arts suit. His muscles were clearly defined, and his body lines were firm. Such a scene and such a body made the blood of the audience boil. They couldn't wait to emulate him. This was the beauty of strength. This was the feeling of battle. Thump, 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 thump. Lu Cheng changed his direction continuously. It was as if the arena was shrouded in thunderclouds. Continuous explosions and strong winds blew. The aftermath even shook the big screen hanging in the air. Flying sand and rolling stones were not enough to describe this scene. This was the power of a demigod. In the next few minutes, Lu Cheng kept changing his tactics. He used Scorch, Burning God, Jet Spray, Snow Expanse, Cold Bite, and Aurora. Unfortunately, none of them caused any substantial damage to Lin Yu. It was like being bitten by a mosquito, completely harmless. However, Polar Ground, which affected the ground and restrained and interfered with the enemy's movements, had some effect, slowing down the enemy's attacks. This match is going to be interesting. In the Longhu Club forum, Outspoken commented, "Yeah, the immortal flesh body is so freakish. It's like a copper pea that can't be steamed, cooked, beaten, or fried." Lu Cheng is going to have a lot to grind. Road to the Arena sighed and agreed. Invincible Punch laughed and said, "Senior Lin is going to participate in extreme survival programs. It will definitely be interesting." In the midst of the battle, Lu Cheng suddenly took a deep breath and swung back a few meters. When Lin Yu pounced on him, he visualized and activated his qi and blood to stimulate the corresponding parts of his body. The blood demon force turned into an arrow and pierced into the head of the giant elephant. Simplified army formula. In that instant, Lin Yu was in a trance. His limbs and head seemed to be tied to different horses. They were running in all directions. He tried his best to resist and prevent himself from being dismembered. However, just as he pulled the horses to a stop, a heavenly weapon shimmering with cold light suddenly slashed down. The cold light cut through his own skin. He shuddered and woke up. Lu Cheng, who was in front of him, threw a punch at the void. Blazing white flames condensed on the surface of his fist. They collapsed to the limit and suddenly exploded. Boom! The light was so bright that it blurred Lin Yu's vision. Numerous fire arrows drilled into his skin, exploding and burning. The 36th move of the fire sect, Devour. Lin Yu's muscles wriggled and his skin contracted. The flames were extinguished inch by inch and didn't have much effect. However, Lu Cheng took advantage of his enemy's confusion and took the initiative to close in. Bam! He punched out from his waist. Before that, he contracted his qi and blood and balanced them into Dan. He kept the burning heat away from the boundary and made the darkness even colder. Self-created unique skill, Lament of the Ice Queen. Lin Yu didn't feel the danger. He punched with absolute reaction, creating an air explosion in the narrow space. Bam! A muffled sound rushed into the sky. Lu Cheng's body swayed backward and maintained his center of gravity. Lin Yu was surrounded by a thick layer of ice, as if he was sealed in a transparent coffin. No matter how strong his body was, he couldn't prevent the surface of his body from freezing. That was the realm of physical invulnerability. Crack! Crack! Lin Yu's muscles expanded and broke the ice coffin. However, Lu Cheng took the opportunity to visualize the heavy and scorching Emperor Yan and compress the fire force in his body. Following that, he controlled the violent force with fire god Zhurong. He opened his right arm and punched out like lightning. The 10th move of the fire sect, Simplified Physical Invulnerability, Internal Explosion. Lin Yu's feet were still sealed in ice, so he couldn't dodge. However, he was confident in his body. He shook his arm and punched out. Boom! The force of internal explosion couldn't penetrate completely into the enemy's body. Half of it exploded in his muscles and skin, causing only a slight vibration. The other half penetrated with difficulty, shaking his qi and blood and tumbling his organs. However, this kind of damage was nothing to Lin Yu. His expression didn't change. He pulled his feet and the ice coffin shattered completely. However, Lu Cheng had already activated his qi and blood to stimulate his body. He used the simplified fighting formula. He controlled his body and tightened most of his bulging muscles. He raised his arm and punched down. Bam! As soon as they made contact, Lu Cheng's tightened muscles relaxed. The force of the vibration spread outward, triggering Lin Yu's remaining influence and shaking his body. This was a combination of the simplified fighting formula and Thunder Roar Zen. Lin Yu's body jumped. His muscles shook and slowed down for half a beat. Lu Cheng visualized again and formed the force of internal explosion. He punched out again. Boom! Bam! Boom! Bam! Lu Cheng stretched his back and threw out punch after punch. He combined internal explosion with fighting formula. One caused damage, the other controlled. Lin Yu, who hadn't reached the realm of encountering gods in the void, fell into a passive state. He could only hold on bitterly, unable to find a way to break the situation. Once, twice, thrice, 4, 5. Lu Cheng used the simplified fighting formula 5 times and landed 5 internal explosions on his opponent. If it were any other inhuman mighty one, they would be severely injured even if they didn't die. However, Lin Yu was only bleeding from the corner of his mouth. His condition was deteriorating and he wasn't at his limit yet. However, this way, even if Lu Cheng didn't use the simplified fighting formula, his Dan Force explosion and tremor punch could still affect and control Lin Yu's body, which was injured by the recoil. 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. Lu Cheng landed another 3 internal explosions on Lin Yu. Every punch landed on flesh with insane strength. The audience's blood boiled. Bam! Lu Cheng took a step forward. His eyes were wide open. His body became abnormally tall, like a god descending to earth. He spread his right arm and threw out another internal explosion. Lin Yu, whose eyes were in a daze from the shock, subconsciously raised his arm and blocked. Boom! The sound of an explosion came from within. Lin Yu's muscles trembled. His body stiffened and stopped moving. Lu Cheng took the initiative to back away and put some distance between them. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Lu Cheng wins." Lin Yu's lips moved as if he wanted to say something. However, when he opened his mouth, blood spurted out. His entire body fell to the ground like a toppling mountain. Clang! The sound stunned many of the audience. In the Longhu Club forum, Pig Riding Knight said blankly, "What was Lu Cheng doing earlier? He would have won earlier." You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.